Well, we've brought the shadow. Are you ready to walk to the end, my friend?
Oh boy, this was quite an end. So, welcome to the Big Cat Aethercast, where we go ahead and talk about Final Fantasy XIV because, good lord.
Yes. So, peak cinema, but that's the case for 14 in general. But the thing that I want to talk about is how you been doing, Leo?
Let's introduce ourselves again. I am Leo Force.
I am Rei'tan, or Ray.
And we're going to be reviewing the Nier Dark Apocalypse raid, as well as the end patches for Shadowbringers. So, some progress has been made. For starters, I decided to go ahead and start going into relic crafting.
Oh yes, you started the Anima relic weapon.
Yeah, so I decided to start crafting Anima. It was mainly the reason I was avoiding them for so long was because, one, I heard terrible things about the Zodiac weapons.
Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, in terms of difficulty, the Zodiac weapons are probably the hardest.
And that probably means that should be somewhere down the line reworked.
Either reworked or, honestly, no. If they haven't reworked it by now, they're not going to. Probably not. But the reason why those relic weapons are hard is because you have to do specific fates, and they only happen at specific times.
So the fate timer is much more difficult than the other relic weapons.
Yes, because the Anima relic weapon starts off with, you just need to do a couple of fates in every Heaven's Ward area just to get one crystal from each area. Mm-hmm. And there are 6 areas. That's like the most awkward thing about it, I think.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad in all fairness. Presently, I'm in the middle of the hyper ethermatic stage, I think.
Which is where
that is the crystal sand and umbrite grind.
Oh, that part. Oh, yeah, that is where it takes a lot of time. You're going to end up also unlocking some quests for crystals, I believe, called Pneumite. Mm-hmm. Pneumite you can get from the Free Company.
No, the thing that I need to do those that's there is singing clusters.
Singing clusters, yes. There will be quests that unlock that give you like a tremendous amount of singing clusters just for doing 3 leveling roulettes.
3 leveling roulettes, 1 high dungeon roulette, and then the rest you just get through Tombstone Exchange.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that much I am familiar with. That's, I think, the next step after I finish with this one.
Yeah, the Umbrite is the pain in the ass, because that's where you have to allocate your stats onto your weapon. And I'm just going to tell you right now, those stats don't matter.
Well, the stats don't matter just because it's level 60 and we're going to level 100.
Yeah.
So really the only reason I even bothered is because I'm getting it for glam material.
Pretty much, because what you do is you get the relic weapon. You won't be able to put the relic weapon itself in the glamour dresser, mm-hmm. but you can buy a replica of it from a nearby node.
And the replica is what you then get to use.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to be doing something similar with one of the resistance weapons because it looks really good for Machinist.
Mm-hmm. I will say the Anima relic weapons are probably some of the best looking relic weapons.
I agree for the most part, which is why it's going to suck when I have to do it twice more.
Let's see, you're currently working on Astrologian, correct?
Yes, because that was the one that I felt was in dire need of it. And then I'm probably going to go through it a second time for Warrior, because between all the other weapons, that's probably the one that looks the best out of the relics. And then the third time is, at least for right now, going to be fucking Dark Knight, because Cronus Lux looks absolutely phenomenal.
It is one of the best Dark Knight weapons. It is hands down one of the best.
As far as the other weapons, I probably will be going through Boja for Red Mage, and possibly Red Mage, and as well as for one of the early variant for one of the Machinist weapons. And Manderville, which I told is the relic weapon for Endwalker, will be the other one I get for Machinist.
Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, Endwalker's one is super easy. Just do your your poetics grind, and you'll have the materials required. No problem.
Yes.
Because each stage requires 1,500 tomestones.
Yeah. So I'm surprised how relatively accessible it is.
It is, and that would cause a lot of drama in the community because people felt like there should have been more to do to get the Hildebrand relic weapons.
Well, there is more to do. It requires you to do the entirety of the Manderville questline.
I know, and that pissed off a lot of people, because some people just don't like fun.
Apparently so. Speaking of which, speaking of fun, we are recording this before the release of 7.25?
7.25, which will be... Well, yes, I'm recording this on the weekend as the patch will come out, because that will be...
Phantom weapons.
That'll be the new relic weapons, the Phantom weapons, and the Occult Crescent, as well as the next Manderville questline.
Which, I saw one screen cap, and I'm wondering, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh yeah, you haven't even seen my Let's Play of the Hildebrand stuff, because I want you unspoiled.
Yeah, you explicitly said I am not allowed to look at the Endwalker shit for that. So I am... basically, I am aware up to everything up to Shadowbringer, of course, at the end of Stormblood. At the end of Stormblood, Hildebrand gets pulled down a hole and disappears for the entirety of Shadowbringer, which we have not seen hide nor hair of him since. Unless
you get lucky in the Hero's Gauntlet dungeon, where you will see his soul pop up for some fucking reason.
Goody! It's horrifying.
He's like, where the hell am I? And then starts flexing, I believe.
Of course he does.
That will actually be relevant!
What?
Yes! It will be relevant for the Manderville Endwalker.
I mean, I'm not surprised at this point, but good lord.
I'm just going to tell you right now, it goes to 100. It goes from 0 to 100 quick.
Mm-hmm. I also did a decent amount of society quest grinding, to the extent that I've at least progressed a good chunk of the way through the Sylph tribal quest line.
Okay.
And that I've actually reached the milestone for the Amalja quest line.
Oh, so you've actually finished the Amalja?
Yes, so the Amalja quest line starts off with a... you're assisting the Brotherhood of Ash, who are basically a non-aggressive sect of Amalja, who basically refute the
teachings of the others.
The teachings of Ifrit. Amongst them is a Mikote named Lunga.
Yeah, I remember Lunga.
Who was basically left in the desert and is basically considers herself one of the Amalja in everything but physical form. And even then, she hides her face because she considers herself repulsive compared to the others. Mm. Which is just, that's bait. That's outright bait.
I know it's bait, but
it's still fun.
It is.
Anyway, you find out that, of course, the sect of Amalja did in fact capture, or have been doing raids and have been tempering some of Lunga's former tribes,
including
members,
her mother,
who, while not tempered, her mind did not survive the tempering process, and therefore she still believes that Lunga is still a baby who she fosters over and is trying to protect.
Meanwhile, she's just holding a fucking rock.
Right, because again, she's that mentally broken, which also seriously disturbs Lunga, who goes on a one-woman rampage against the Amalja. The Brotherhood of Ash has a non-aggression pact with their more aggressive cousins, but seeing us with our efforts and Lunga go on a one-man rampage, the chieftain literally just shows up, lets a dagger slip through his hands, dealing the finishing blow to the rival chief, and it's like, whoops, that happened. Guess it must be guess must be the blessing of Ifrit.
Yeah.
And she eventually gets closure, and that establishes your level of trust with the Brotherhood. You can still, of course, repeat the tribal quest to advance it further, but I think you only need 4 for the ARR societies, correct?
Yeah, yes, you only need 4. The one that's going to give you the longest to do, because you have to actually get all the way from 0 to Trusted, which is like rank 6, are the Ixal.
Okay.
But that's because they're the Crafter and Gatherer job.
Yeah, I haven't touched them yet. I have done a bit more Crafter Gatherer for the Dwarves, which I am I'm at least happier with the way they do this, because that was because of the way that I did them. I did not unlock all the society quests right away, so I actually didn't unlock the Sahagin, Ixal, and I forgot what the other one in
Kobolds.
Kobolds until way later in ARR.
To be honest, I did not. Those ones, the ARR job quests, were the last ones I did of all the beast tribes.
Yeah,
so I technically did the quest lines with the bad masked poacher Mikote in reverse order.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of funny.
It is. I have progressed most of the way through the Moogle, because the Moogles have a stupidly extensive storyline before you unlock them as a side quest.
Funny enough, coming out in the patch coming up is going to be the Mamulja Beast Tribe
Society quest.
The Society quest.
Yes.
And that one's going to be the Crafter and Gatherer. That one required you do the quest, the mini linked quest lines in the area.
Oh, okay.
You know,
that's similar then, because basically I think that's what happened with the Moogles.
Yeah. In this one, you basically had to do, when you do the quest lines for your Aether Currents, those quest lines will technically continue on with their own little side story.
Yes, I do remember that, but for the most part, those are optional.
Yeah. They aren't optional for the Mamulja Beast Tribe quest.
Yeah.
So you got to help out this little this Hrothgar who's trying to be a hunter and stuff like that. You're trying to help a Mamulja who's trying to stop rampaging weavers from attacking travelers. And then there's actually a capstone quest for those two where they work together to find out what is causing the problem.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's at least coming back to some degree. But I'm hoping that it's not as annoying as the Moogle one.
Oh, it's not as annoying.
Yes, the Moogle one was quite extensive to where you basically were helping them rebuild certain parts of the sanctuary after shenanigans that occurred there.
Yeah, the Moogle one was pretty in-depth. I didn't even realize it was to start the Crafter one until later on. I was like, oh shit, I haven't really properly started Crafters yet. And I'm like, you're going on hold for a little while.
Yeah, so I know I have unlocked the Vath and the Snake Ladies from Stormblood.
The Ananta.
But I have not really started those in depth yet. I've realized also that Society quests are a really good way to do daily grind on characters that you're leveling up without doing dungeon crawls.
Oh yeah, especially if you're in that level range from that quest line.
Yes.
Do the combat ones, and you will get a lot of experience.
Which is going to be interesting because that's what I plan to do for my warrior, and I might also go back and do it for Gunbreaker Samurai depending on my mood on those classes. But that will depend because I've already put a lot on my plate. I have also going through the big one, which was the Pixies. So the Pixie storyline involves you helping out a bunch of children who have suffered from nightmares and assisting the Pixies because the Fae, because they actually have Portal to Dreamrealm.
They have a Portal to the Dreamrealm, and it turns out the Pixie, who was reincarnated from the previous Titania, is causing nightmares.
Right.
Which is kind of fucked up.
Which also may have been the former friend of the quest giver, who is the one in charge of restoring the Dreamland.
Right.
And so every time you max out the bar, you go ahead and you help a child with their dreams, and you go ahead and rebuild some of the Dreamland, because as the nightmare the Dreams to Children's Doors establishes the Dreamland. So good dreams make the Dreamland great. Nightmares have been flooding, which is causing
the place to
wither away. And so as I've been restoring it, it becomes this more whimsical it's
Candyland.
It's Candyland if it was co-opted by Chuck E. Cheese.
Pretty much.
But
it's just a nice little area to go and take photos in.
Yes, it's absolutely perfectly pastel coded for that. But it is actually a fairly convincing, at least to me, it's a fairly nice storyline just to go out and to help out these poor kids, especially given the world-ending calamity that we just dealt with.
Yeah, pretty much. Because, oh boy.
In terms of other stuff, I did unlock the Dwarven questline, which involves you talking to either an autistic-coded or non-verbal-coded dwarf, and helping them be able to finally do a proper lolly-ho. to communicate with folks. And then you find out that he's the fucking, like, descendant of the great dwarf who used to work in Lakeland. And he reestablishes the workshop after you help him get over his social issues.
Yeah, the whole thing about the Dwarven questline is they're trying to build a tank.
Yes.
They're trying to build a tank so they can find a way to fend off the Sin Eaters when we're gone, pretty much.
Right. You have shown me this tank. It's an absolutely fantastic looking mount.
And it fires a fucking laser!
Actually does damage mount?
No, it doesn't do damage.
Oh, okay.
It fires a nice particle effect.
Nice particle effect, gotcha. I thought it was going to be like the fucking, Walker from the fucking Garlean Walker.
Oh, yeah, no. It's not like the Reaper.
Okay.
But, the last one of the Shadowbringers quest lines is the Kitarl, which are the, that world's version of the Kikirn.
Mm-hmm.
It involves dealing with Ronka. And you're basically trying to help establish or reestablish the history of the Kitarl and their place in Ronkan society.
Oh, right. I just remembered. I still haven't finished. There's a blue quest line in the Ronkan forest that involves some kind of prophecy with the Viviera. I bet you that's a prerequisite quest for that.
That is, yeah. There was quite a few prerequisite quests for that one.
Because
you have met the Great Serpent of Ronka.
Yes,
you've met him in all his glory.
I also have to finish that quest line. So yeah, I've got a lot on my plate to do.
Yeah, because doing that Kitarl quest line will also get you minions of the Great Serpent.
Yes, which I do see every once in a while. I am happy though that I got my fucking Fire Drake and my Wind Up Amalja, which is the main reason I even bothered with that particular questline first.
Once you get them all to trusted, you can actually get another version of it, the alternate color version.
Oh, okay.
So I believe you get the one that's the Brotherhood version.
Okay, and then you get the typical red one.
Yeah.
Or the typical enemy one.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. That I will keep in mind. I have been doing a lot more diadem mining, if only because I need to go ahead and make more gold. Or more gil.
Yeah, selling the Sky Builders stuff on the market board is actually a fairly decent way to make gil, especially since people still go to the firmament to level up their crafters.
I did two laps before coming here to record this, and I leveled up twice from 84 to 86. So yes, it is incredibly stupid. I didn't even have a food buff on.
Yeah.
Like, it is amazing when you are within that range how potent that is.
And once you get to level 90 for your crafters, you can actually do cosmic exploration. Mm-hmm. But you'll have to have beaten Endwalker first. We'll get there.
But that means I can do that basically out the gate, yeah?
Yeah. Once you beat Endwalker, you can out the gate go and do cosmic exploration.
Nice. Two last minute things. I am realizing that I've also been doing. I finished up the Kai Shear custom deliveries for him.
Oh, okay.
So we finished making a custom airship for the Beehive
that will transport people from the Crystarium to Yulemoor.
Yes,
to embark in the City of Pleasures.
Yes, and do so at a fair and equitable cost. So I've been going back and doing some of my other custom deliveries. I'm starting El Tool, who is the little dragon. From the firmament, helping them become a crafter by basically crafting the ship for them, and then they copy me, and then also doing unlocked custom deliveries for
Charlemald,
who is Carvillian's birth father.
Yes, they're the estranged father.
Yes, and I believe his quest line to unlock actually goes over him going through the three original cities to go ahead and make trade agreements with them, ultimately culminating in him nearly stumbling over his own son's identity in trying to make a trade agreement with the Krakens.
Yeah.
Which, very interesting, because I know that was at least hinted at somewhat in his background, but yeah, there you go.
It's weird. The custom deliveries actually expound on the world a little bit more. You get to meet with characters and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like Kurenai from the Ruby Palace.
Yes, you go through all the Kurenai stuff, which I definitely did when I was power leveling my crafters in Stormblood. I've also started doing Akirax, the golden swine boy.
Oh. Yeah, he's from the steppe.
Yeah, he's actually from the steppe. I just got to the point where it's like, boss, where the fuck have you been? I've been hiding. By using your real name? Shut up, don't argue with me.
I'm keeping the mask on. It's not coming off.
The pig mask stays on.
Yes.
At all times. But yeah, so...
He's basically a former con, and...
who said, nope, I don't want to do this shit no more.
Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of problems, whole bunch of fuckery that I do not want to deal with. I've had threats on my life. I just want out.
And I'm going to help out this poor woman with her orphanage.
Yes.
Which is fairly noble.
Yes.
So mostly a lot of, aside from the stuff we're going to get into, mostly a lot of side crafting stuff. By the way, the reason I sunk so much gil is because of the fact that I bought glamours for my retainers, one of which was the Moonfire set, and the other was the Thanavarian Dancer set.
Oh boy, you're making a harem for your retainers, aren't you?
You do not say that. That is not true. I'm going to deny those fully.
Oh, how about we talk about the fact that you turned what you made...
I dropped a hint, so that was the last thing I was going to end on, was that so this whole started with the fact that, so me and my girlfriend, Sarah, we send each other Instagram videos throughout the day, and then so we go ahead and watch them at night, and then we comment on them. That's one of the things we do. And one of the videos that she sent me was, is it really love if you don't make your significant other in a video game?
Right.
And it was like, you know what, mysterious commenter? That is a very valid point. So I went ahead and told Sarah at one point, like, hey, I saw this video. I can't really make you a playable character because that's kind of doesn't the way it works in Final Fantasy XIV, but I can make you a retainer. And so I went ahead and made her one of my retainers in 14.
Did you use like a Fantasia, or did you...
Yeah, Fantasia.
Okay.
Because I already had two existing prior, but I basically just changed one of them to be representative of her.
Ah, okay.
So she is now my Lalafell minor, and she looks pretty, and we're going to leave it at that.
Red flag.
Oh, shut up.
I'm fucking with you.
I know you are.
I know.
We are not at the stage in which she wants to play yet, because she's had experiences with MMOs and she's kind of lukewarm on that.
Fair enough.
But that, and we already do a lot together, so it's kind of like we would have to fit that in on top of all the other stuff. So it's like we haven't really discussed it further than that, but at least I floated the idea.
That's a future problem.
That is a future problem. However, I will say that at one point we were discussing villain tropes, and one of the things that she absolutely adores is when the villain has a morally gray reason or morally gray motivation for their actions.
Yeah.
And we basically had a discussion that ultimately led to the fact that, yeah, she would probably go gaga over Emet-Selch. Which, that was I know you found that absolutely hilarious.
Oh god, if we actually got her into the game, Shadowbringers would fucking ruin her.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how she would react to Shadowbringers, much less the rest of the game. I would be curious to just play some of the cutscenes through ARR for her, just to gauge her reaction.
Well, that certainly is a thought, but we'll get to there eventually.
We'll see how that goes. Some people do. I know that there's at least one online friend who does date nights with his significant other over 14, and I obviously know the community does have their own wedding ceremonies in universe. Yeah, but we'll see whether or not that ever becomes a thing.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes to that.
Yeah, we'll see what comes naturally of that. But that is more or less the bulk of what I've been doing.
Alright, as for me, I have been going through cosmic exploration here and there. It is...
frustrating?
It is frustrating sometimes. Because I decided to do everything before all the stuff was built into everything.
Oh, goody.
Because what you're doing is you're building up the moon base.
Yes.
And doing so allows for better travel and access to different areas to activate the...
so you just hard grinded to get everything you needed before actually turning it in to expand out your resources.
Basically, everything you do contributes to a bar that fills up.
Right.
Once that bar fills up, the whole server gets together and does a minigame to increase it to one stage further in completion.
So like Ishgardian Restoration.
Yes. there are about 16 stages of completion. We are now on 14 as of what last I checked for Excalibur.
Okay.
So we are almost done. I believe there are 16 total. We are almost done with it. I wish I had waited a little bit because there are now moon tracks all over that would have made it a lot better to be afraid to do the crafter to do the gatherer quest lines.
Gotcha.
Because if you're doing the crafting ones, you can just stay in the main base. And
right. All you're doing is just crafting.
Yes. If you're gathering, you have to actually run out and do things.
Right.
Yeah. There are also these red alert missions, which are pretty much not fake. They are mandatory.
Okay.
They are mandatory to help fill up the progression meter, and they require certain classes to do certain things. They'll always require at least three or four crafters and at least one gatherer or two gatherers. And you fill up the bars and you do them, and you get a heck ton of credits that you get to spend on either outfits or you get to spend on the lottery.
I was going to say, the lottery system has caused much frustration for the poor Loperates.
If I get one more magic prism, I swear to God I'm going to yeet a bunny into space.
The bunnies are already in space.
I will yeet them further into the abyss.
So you're going to send them back to wherever Ultima Omega came from?
We'll get there. Let's just move on. Let's just say that I'm about to turn a certain Loperate into Punting Way.
Yes, I think Punting Way should have been a tag on Twitter after all the nonsense that I've seen from that.
Yeah, mostly it's just been fucking way.
And
as in fucking you.
Yes, and yet somehow you managed to pull two suits, one of which you gave to me, which I'm very grateful for.
You're very welcome. I still could not get the actual mount. I had to buy that off the market board once it fucking crashed.
Yes.
So, I'm done with getting stuff off the market board for that. I accidentally sold one of the glamour pieces that you can get with the other credits. So I have to regrind for that so I can put it in my coffer as the full set.
Yep.
So, there's that. All in all, I will say I've been doing cosmic exploration more than I did the Diadem, but it's different. It's definitely different from the Diadem. I kind of like certain aspects of the Diadem more. Mm-hmm. Like, I like the whole instance area that you could go to, and the fact that you could actually use your mount. You cannot use your mount.
Well, you're in space, so I get that's like a reasonable limitation, I guess.
There's a mount you can mount on the other moon area.
There's another moon area?
You will see.
Okay. You also been grinding Red Mage, have you not?
I have actually, as of yesterday, maxed it out.
Alright, so that's how many classes that you have now maxed out?
Okay, there's, going in order, we've got Warrior, Gunbreaker, Dark Knight, we have Dragoon, Reaper, Samurai, and Viper. We have Scholar, and we have White Mage. Now we have Red Mage, Dancer, we have, what's that last one? Summoner, and we have Blue Mage.
Okay, so the ones that you are missing are technically Paladin, Monk, Dragoon.
No, I have Dragoon.
Oh, you have Dragoon?
Paladin, Monk,
Black Mage,
Ninja,
Astrologian, Sage, Machinist, Bard,
and Pictomancer.
Although Pictomancer is probably the shortest one that you would have to grind up.
Yeah, but sadly I'm doing things the hard way and I'm starting Black Mage next.
Although that's not too bad considering apparently the reworks were really good for it.
The reworks were good. I'm hearing less complaints, but I'm also hearing a lot of old school veteran ones saying that they've just given up Black Mage now. Which, I don't know what to think about it. The whole Black Mage change is like, it is Yoshi P's class. He is going to do with it whatever the fuck he wants to do with it.
Yeah, it's way more his pet project than any other of the classes, and so that's to be expected, I think.
I think the thing that people are wary of is the loss of identity.
Yeah.
But honestly, you're still a fucking turret.
I have heard those arguments, and I agree to the most part that regardless of what caster you are, I think for the most part you are still turreting.
Yeah. I mean, I turret when I'm a summoner. I turret when I'm a red mage.
Yeah, although red mages have a lot more movement options because of their ins and outs.
Yes.
So they at least have those.
Although I've noticed when I play red mage, I don't actually use the core to zoom in. Yes. I just walk in.
Yeah, no, you need to... I know it's a weird thing because you're used to that playing any other class, but core and the escape move are really handy. Just make sure that you don't become a dragoon when you do that.
Trust me, I have plenty of experience being a floor tank. That was my first job. And, oh boy, I really should have started doing different jobs. But I just beelined ARR to Endwalker as Dragoon.
I think that is at least one of the big things that's going to differentiate your experience from mine is the fact that I was a lot more rounded in experimenting with other classes through ARR and Heaven's Word, and even through, I want to say Stormblood is when I really started paying attention to, okay, everyone I kind of want to level up at the same time.
Yeah, because I was not sure what I was doing with Dragoon even until the very end. Mm-hmm. Like,
to be fair, I think like really you can get away with your your bread and butter, and as long as you remember mitts if you're a tank, damage buffs or your healer or your temporary HP gain when you're DPS, and making sure you don't run out of MP as mages, you're generally more or less fine.
Yeah.
For the most part. I think really the only one that I was like, yeah, now you have to really pay attention is Holminster Switch.
Yeah, that's when things really start picking up, and I'm like, ugh. But then again, I didn't start tanking until after I was done with the main story, and I had actual time to myself to just go, okay, now that I've gone through the beginning to the end, because I heard Shadowbringers was amazing, I heard Endwalker was amazing, I wanted to see how it goes. Now let's go back, let's dial it back, and let's go and do the things that I didn't get to do.
Yeah, and I do feel that given the tools that they've dropped to now make the ARR grind less grindy, I feel like that's definitely an improvement.
Oh yeah, with all the different rings and buffs that you can get now, it's a lot easier. Especially with the new ring that they added for...
the Neophyte's ring.
The Neophyte's ring. That definitely helps you up to 60, which is a godsend.
Yeah. And that gives you just enough to where then going from 61 onward, you can more or less... you have enough resources to be able to grind up that not as difficult.
Yeah. The thing that's really going to get to me is Black Mage is because I've heard that basically I'm going to have a rotation set for level 50 and lower and 60 and above.
Mm.
So I actually had to create an extra hotbar for all this shit, and I am not looking forward to having to switch between the two.
I see.
Because I don't like switching my hotbars.
So what I know, or what at least I've been... what I have done for some of my classes is that you can get on controller a third crossbar, but it's a little bit more finicky in how you access the third bar.
Yeah, I'm still not sure how I'm accessing this technical third bar. This third bar, it's technically half of a
right.
bar. It's
the crossbar.
It's actually half of a crossbar that I have access to. Otherwise, I have to double tap one of my own things to access it.
Yeah.
And it just gives me that. And I've used that third cross hotbar for all the stuff that I can't put on, like my limit break, my sprint, for my tanks, my shirk, for if I ever do extremes, my potions and the like. But that's all I've been able to do. Maybe if I had another friend who was actually who knew more about the controller setups, but maybe once you figure it out, you can help me.
Yeah, I can look into that because I originally do want to do at least a little bit of Black Mage. I think if I remember correctly, my friend Niall does do Black Mage, and I think she plays controller too. So I may want to ask her about her setup and see what she recommends.
Okay, if she can send me screenshots, good, because I've been trying to look at people's other hotbars, and it's just a mess. I like to keep things to 2 hotbars.
Right, I agree with you on that. It just keeps it simple.
Yeah.
Anything else on your end as far as what you plan to do? It sounds like you're making you're already an Omnicrafter, so it sounds like you're making progress towards maxing out everything.
I mean, slowly and surely, I'm going to take on more jobs here and there, bit by bit by bit. I'm going to go at my own pace. I know some people are crazy and just do all the jobs at once, and I'm like, good fucking luck.
I'd say at least I would say at least stick with one and then max that out. Like, really learn the craft.
Yeah, the thing that I'm terrified of learning is the other healers.
So, I can at least tell you, Astrologian is... The main thing about Astrologian is that it's over time.
Yeah.
So your main issue is just making sure that you stack your Helios and your Aspected Benefic at a time in which it will benefit at least half health if they're not being swarmed. Otherwise, you'll have to do Essential Dignity and your Benefics to make sure that they get timed up properly.
Got it.
And then in the meantime, you're putting your dots on enemies and using your card buffs to help out in tight situations.
Yeah, the thing is, I really love White Mage because it just stuns all the enemies, so I don't have to worry about the tank taking damage for a while. I can just do a bit of damage.
I will tell you one thing that does make Astrologian, in my eyes, a godsend. Lightspeed.
Lightspeed?
Lets you cast on the move.
Ah.
So if you have a tank that is in dire need of healing and he's just taking the fuck off, you proc Lightspeed, and then you just chase his ass down, because Lightspeed basically gives you the effect of the insta-cast, but then you make it up on a reduced cooldown.
So I cast Lightspeed, and I'm like, take this card, take this buff, take this buff, don't fucking die, don't fucking die, don't fucking die, don't fucking die.
Yeah, and that saves you on using your Aspected Benefic, which is really the emergency heal that you need it to be.
Right.
Other than that, dots are nice, your cards are nice. Once you get the Major Terror, which are the King and Queen, those help too. I'm still not all that good. I have a pretty decent handle on a lot of the older content, but I can tell you where I'm still not ready for
higher level.
I'm not ready to do an extreme yet because I do not have sync timing on using global cooldowns in tandem with the other party.
Yeah, here's the thing. Once you start doing extremes, you have to learn your rotation perfectly. I mean, to the point where even if you have to look down to check it, you don't have to. Mm-hmm. You can figure out the button combinations practically by instinct.
Yeah, and I do have that. The problem is I can do that. The problem is like, because certain globals do not stack with other parties, so you have to stagger them out.
Yeah.
That's the part that I would goof up on, at least at this stage.
I would say, let's see.
I also I have a bad tendency that even though I know, in quotes, what something does, I don't know all the fine print for it. Yeah. And so that kind of leads to awkward situations where it's like, oh, didn't I press the thing that gives you that gives you healing? No, it lets them receive more healing when you cast it on them.
This is where I recommend you check out Westcalibur. Mm-hmm. You know this YouTuber?
Maybe. I may have seen clips.
He is a YouTuber that has guides on all...
this one. I think
the rotation guide.
Yeah, no, I've seen the rotation. I may need to review some of his videos, because at least for some of the older classes, or the ones that have changed, because I think a lot of his stuff, he did it Shadowbringer Endwalkers?
He did all of them for Endwalker. He is now currently uploading the ones for Dawn Trail. He had a hiccup because of the mid-patch change to Black Mage. He had done the Black Mage pre-7.2 and then had to fix it.
And then he had to flip the table.
Yes. They did a mid-patch change to Paladin in Endwalker.
Yes. Oh, God.
And people were not happy about that. And people are like, if you're going to change the class, change it at the start of an expansion. Don't change it that badly in the middle of an expansion. It frustrates people.
Right. The last thing I will say is FF14 Twitter is absolute madness.
I mean, when is it not?
I mean, I know, but like some of the things that I've discussed with you since the last patch are wild. For one thing, Alphino plays himself.
Oh yeah, he has his own Twitch channel, I Am Alphino. And he has just hit Heavensward, as in he's heard himself talk for the first time.
Yes. Oh, we almost finished the section without talking about Magic the Gathering.
Oh, yes, Magic the Gathering doing the Final Fantasy collab.
So, Magic the Gathering has a tendency to do secret layer sets, which are basically reprints of existing cards with the separate fandoms, artwork, and IP. They've eventually, Magic the Gathering has instead chosen to partner this time with Square Enix, and they've released a bunch of Final Fantasy cards. Not just a secret layer set, but also pre-generated decks, which feature primarily from Final Fantasies 5, 7, 10, and 14.
Yes,
so
there's a lot of 14 cards.
So there's a lot of 14 cards.
Oh, there's even some Final Fantasy 9, because I did see... Because apparently Vivi's broken.
Yeah, Vivi, those are the pre-con decks that just mainly theme around them, but they have cards throughout the entirety of the franchise, including all 16 variants of Sid.
Yes, and you can actually use them all in your deck.
Because they all have a special card text that basically says you can have any number of Sids in your deck.
Yes. So you can use any Sids you want. You can use your favorites. You could use them all.
Yes. Which is horrible for the card market, but it is absolutely hilarious to us 14 fans. Yeah. Of the characters that they have included, Thancred's included, Xenos is included, Emet-Selch, Lise
Hex, yeah,
is included, not Ida.
Yeah.
I do believe Y'shtola is the commander featured for the 14 deck.
Yeah, she is the commander.
The thing that everyone was freaking out about was that there are cards in Magic the Gathering called tokens, which are basically meant to represent basically just generic creatures with no effect.
Generic 1/1 monsters.
Generic creatures with no effect, very similar to tokens in Yu-Gi-Oh! Those token arts are incredibly unique and character specific, that many people believe that they were internal designers' own Warriors of Light with items in the character art representative of the classes they played.
Yeah.
So one was a Hrothgar in the Crystarium, Machinist, Gunbreaker, and I think Sage.
Yeah.
Was what he had the equipment from all three. Another was a Thief Reaper from Limsa Lominsa. So someone actually got...
There was a Black Mage Dark Knight
Lalafell? No, it was... Yeah, Black Mage Dark Knight Lalafell and a Paladin Warrior Hume, I think. Or Makote. Yeah. I think it was Makote at the end. But someone found... basically made the Magic the Gathering art into a template, or the card form into a template, so that way people can just take their own Warriors of Light, either with screenshots or art, and then make their own custom tokens, because Magic the Gathering actually has a very lax system about, hey, if you're using your own custom tokens, we're fine with that.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not do that.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not do that, and it's amazing how much the FF community just loved Magic the Gathering for that.
Yeah.
I know that we have GameStops and card stores that sell
Magic
stuff, so I imagine those are going to get sold out real fast once it releases later in June.
I just want the Emet-Selch card. Literally, I just want that card.
They have a card that features Guy, a savant-like character from Final Fantasy II, talking with beavers.
That is his big thing in Final Fantasy II. He talks to beavers. He is such a weirdo.
He is a genuine weirdo. Amongst the other cards that existed, Sublime Epiphany, which is they were roommates.
Oh, that's the Eden one.
That's the Eden one where it shows
Eden's Promise observing the memory crystal
of Reese and Gaia having coffee biscuits.
Reen
and Gaia having coffee biscuits. Authority of the Consuls, which shows Yotsuyu stepping on that one villager at the start of Stormblood.
Right.
Let's see who else. Ardbird, of course, has his own card. There's two cards that show. One is called Relic of Legends, which shows Horsephont's broken shield at the end of that moment from the vault.
Yeah, that's a fucking gut punch.
And another one, which is Emet-Selch after being given the Wound of Light and saying his iconic "Remember" line.
Yeah, I believe that's just a reprint of.
Yeah, it's a reprint of original Magic the Gathering card, but they put artwork from Final Fantasy, which every single one of these is absolutely crafted. One of the other ones, which I can't find, but I know it exists, is fucking Sabin. Not Sabin. What's the guy from 6? The suplex man.
That is Sabin.
Sabin rushing into the fucking Phantom Train for the suplex card.
I know, that is I want that framed.
Yes.
You just to see him.
Arms barreling in, arms blazing as he's running towards the train.
Yeah. So far, I have only seen one Endwalker card. Do not look it up. It is technically Fandaniel.
Okay.
But actually, there's 2 Fandaniel cards, but they're both scenes that you have not yet seen yet.
There is a Manderville card we can't confirm, and there is a Gentle Dead token.
Yes.
To accompany it.
Glorious, because Hildebrand will summon a zombie token, as is his wont.
Yes.
And seems to be the case always.
Yes, so if you can afford to shell out the money for these sets, because they are expensive because it's Magic the Gathering, and given the shortage that's likely to come because of how high demand this set is going to be, yeah, you're going to go ahead. These are going to run a pretty penny if you want to try and get any of them.
Again, I just want the Emet-Selch card so I can print it, so I can just have it hanging in my room.
As I will say, anytime cardboard of material value is ever in question, never buy prepackaged product. Always buy singles.
Yep, that is pretty much the case, and that's pretty much how a lot of my decks have gone lately. Although you got me the whitest deck possible.
You want to talk about that?
Just quickly, on a lark, Leo got me 2 of the Blue Eyes White Dragon signature packs from Yu-Gi-Oh!
No. It wasn't just signature packs. It was the new structure deck. It was
the old structure deck and the new structure deck.
And the reason I had to get you the new structure deck is because of the name they give that deck, which is Blue Eyes White Destiny.
You're saying that because I have blue eyes and I'm white as fuck.
No, I'm saying it because MBT wouldn't shut up about Manifest Destiny. And we all know how he loves his Manifest Destiny.
God, that man is a god-tier troll.
He is a god-tier troll. He is probably responsible for making Femboy Hypno a mainstream concept, and I am horrified at that.
Oh, God. Why do I listen to Will of the Council?
Why do you listen to Will of the Council?
I don't know. I'm bored and I needed a podcast.
And here we are.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We
are now 47 minutes in, and now we're barely going to talk about Dark Apocalypse.
Okay, so Your Hot Dark Apocalypse. This is basically the tie-in with Yoko Taro's Nier Automata series.
So have you ever seen someone running around looking like they're dressed like 2B? This is why.
Yeah. This is where you get the 2B thigh highs, and is probably... And the reason why people get that is because it actually gives you a butt.
It gives you a fine butt.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and start out with how you get here.
You basically you started off by helping out these twin dwarves, Anog and Konog, who are being a pair of mischievous little brats.
Yes. So there's actually in Shadowbringers, there's actually 2 dwarven villages. You help out primarily the associated helmed dwarves from the village of Torna, and there are the unhelmed dwarves of Tomra.
Yes.
And so you are being tasked by the Tombrins to go spy on the Tombrins. Boy, that's not going to get confusing at the slightest.
I'm pretty sure we butchered their names entirely. Let's just go helmed and turbans.
So you're going to go spy on the foreign turbans.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not much better.
No, it is not.
Anyway, we have to go spy on the enemy dwarves, and in doing so, we run into a pair of twins, Anog and Konog.
Yes, which are light and dark dwarves, respectively.
Well, they're colored white and in white and black robes. They are trying to get into a dig site, which they have been forbidden from going into for various reasons, and they have asked you for assistance in getting them in.
To which we do help them get in through various means of shenaniganry.
And dealing with the dig site chief, who has the best lolly hose in the fucking game.
Lolly, so good to see you came over, ho.
Yes, he always has the most convoluted greetings whenever he meets you in text, and they are always fantastic whenever I had to voice act this motherfucker. Because you can tell that he's just had enough of this shit and just wishes someone would put a bullet in him.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, the dig site chief gets fucked off because of some reason, and Anog and Konog go into the dig site, to which we suddenly run across a bunch of stubbies. As in the machines from Nier Automata.
Which is rather unusual. Nonetheless, we go ahead and dispose of them, and
we find ourselves not 2B, but 2P, a inverted version of the android from that game series.
So, fun fact, this is, I believe, the original iteration of 2P, correct?
Yes.
So, the reason I bring this up is because in Soul Calibur 6, she also crossed over into that universe, and 2B was a playable character there as well, wielding, I forget what the name of the virtuous...
I don't remember the names of her weapons.
But there's a very signature sword that she carries in when she uses it. And 2P is actually her color palette.
Yeah.
And those of us who did not play Final Fantasy XIV at the time originally thought that this is where the title was coined from, because it's the second player, 2P. Yeah. It's a natural pun. No, it's in fact this fucking character who exists right here.
Yes. So we are introduced to 2P. She talks about the machines and how they are going to cause trouble. They are going to run amok. And so she leads us into the first dungeon, the Copy Factory.
Which we actually break into via the means of the twins' explosives.
Yes.
So the Copy Factory is your first encounter. And you remember how the original game was nothing but bullet hell?
Yeah, a lot of the enemies here just fire off those little bullets. They'll fire off lasers. They'll fire off those slow-moving bullets everywhere. And I will tell you right now, every boss in this fucking Alliance Raid is an HP sponge.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute grind to get through this one, just on the bosses alone, let alone the wait for them. Although the first 2 times it actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah, so first boss is a serial jointed command model.
This was the one that was in the hole shooting out missiles and lasers, correct?
Yes. Then we fight against Hobbs, who puts all the alliances into different separate platforms that each have their own gimmick. One of them has a moving track, one of them has an oil puddles, and the other one has electricity beams.
And it rotates you throughout each of these platforms.
Yes, the walls spin and out comes different stuff. You never have to look at the main boss, you have to look behind you the entire fight.
Yeah, which is very confusing if you're not used to paying attention to your surroundings mid-battle.
Yeah. So it really fucks you up. Then you fight a couple of tanks, you fight one of the flight units, and then you fight Engels, the first boss from Nier Automata, which is the giant construction site beast.
With chainsaws, with giant chainsaws for hands.
Yes.
And so you basically wrangle through all of that to go ahead and eventually reach...
Your high unit, number 9, Type S.
Wait, we're fighting against Type 9S? I thought he was a good guy.
Yeah, here's the thing. He wants to kill 2P for some reason, and we have to take him down for some reason. Because he's hijacked one of the machines and is going a little berserk on us.
Right.
To anyone who's actually played a Nier Automata, you know that he is a very
emotional,
yes,
unit. Nonetheless, he revives a tank unit to go ahead and be a distraction ad while he goes ahead and moves around with his flight unit to go ahead and take pot shots at you. And ultimately, you and the Alliance manage to bring him down before he ultimately tries to take out 2B in a charge attempt and ends up getting booted off the top of the platform.
Pretty much. He gets knocked off. 2P ends up collapsing because she's not running well.
She's running on low... She was damaged in the middle of the fight, low energy, no way to recharge her at this time.
Yes. And so we bring her back to the dig site, and we start actually going back into the dungeon to explore and gather items and stuff and find out a means to repairing her, to which we find the means to repair her inside a room full of 2B androids that are all scrapped.
Right, which should not be unfamiliar to those who have at least seen a watch through of the game.
Yes, we do that. And then basically throughout this whole time, the dig site chief is worried about what's going on and tries to make sure that the twins don't do anything wrong.
Well, the other thing that they're concerned about is they're trying to get ready for a celebration that's to occur in the village. And so, aside from the fact that the twins are sort of outcasts and he's trying to integrate them more into the community, he's also trying to make sure that this goes off without a hitch. So he's a man of many situations, and is trying to keep
a man of many hats.
A man of many hats, he is, which is probably the reason why he's so fucking stressed out all the time. Also, one thing to bring up: when you go into the dungeon to gather up pieces, you're actually given an option to go with Anog to go ahead and do that, or stay back with Konog and wait the situation out. Apparently, this differs in terms of this affects how the story plays out, but ultimately changes nothing of material value.
The only thing it changes is whether you do this now or later. You explore the dungeon now or later. But that's pretty much it. Going forward from there, that's where the patch ends, and then we come back to see them having figured out how to repair 2P. They revived her, and as the festival is about to hit off, shit hits the fan.
Yeah, so the festival, you actually do get a little bit of time to go mess around with the festival. You get to see everyone having a good time, partying it up. And then a bunch of 2P lookalikes, because they're all wearing the inverted costumes, start drone bombing the village and causing chaos. And apparently they're the ones who are going to go ahead and bring about destruction of the world.
Yes.
Which then forces the actual 2B to show up and explain that she can't explain situation, but she is not the enemy, and she needs to go take care of the 2P bots.
Yes. To which we begin the next dungeon, the Puppet's Bunker.
Okay, and so this is where really it starts to go absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, the first off, we fight against the Aegis unit, which, that thing is always so hard to take down.
This is, which one again?
That's that weird spinning top black vessel.
Oh yes, it has the rotating timed AoE markers that delay when they go off, so you have to wait for the opening to show up and rush to it before it completely annihilates you.
They will also alter their fins, so you have to get in a specific spot, otherwise you'll get hit with a blast. And then later on, it will start producing a song.
Yep.
If you've done Nier, you've seen the song before. It goes out and activates and pushes out, and it's pretty rough.
Yes.
Afterwards, you go down, you fight some ads, and then you have to fight against Unit Alpha, Beta, and Chi, which are flight units.
It's pronounced Kai.
Kai,
because it's Greek. But yes, Alpha, Beta, Chi. Actually, that's wrong. It should be Gamma, you fucking...
ABC.
No. But it's Alpha, Beta, Gamma in the original Greek alphabet. So no, they're wrong. I'm sorry, Yogurtaro, you're wrong.
Regardless, this is what I officially like to call as PvP.
Because the bosses have AoEs that if you are not paying attention, or if you want to fuck over the other alliances, you can purposely aim them to the other team, as you are purposely, as you're originally situated in a triangle grid situation, and the bosses will orient themselves with the vertexes.
Yes.
That's the points for those of you who dropped out of middle school math.
And also, the attack is a line AoE. It is a straight line AoE that will go all across the map.
And will purposely hit the other team if you're not pointing it into the wall.
Yeah.
Which again, PvP.
I will tell this again for people who haven't played the Alliance Raid in a while. Point that thing away from me! I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a sudden blast and I'm like, oh, well, I'm fucking dead. I do not like it. I do not like it at all.
Yes.
But anyway, after that, we deal with a
we got the 905P heavy artillery unit.
Oh, that's the one in that big arena with the lasers and the summoning of the pods.
Yes.
That one is wild. And also, that's the one where the tanks seem to also play PvP with their tank busters.
Yeah, you do not want to be standing... This is why, ever since that one, I have purposely been on the side of the enemy if I'm off tanking.
Yeah.
Because you do not want to get hit with multiple tank busters because you were being stupid, trying to go ahead and all be at the front.
Yeah. That fight also involves you having to stand in puddles to prevent something from being generated.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you right now, I love the music in this raid. The Nier raid music is really good, but then again, it's just all the music from
Automata.
From Automata that's just being brought into the game. I will say that the fight for 9S had Weight of the World, which is one of my favorite songs from that, but it also has has the Final Fantasy Prelude medley mixed into it, which is a real nice touch.
That is excellent, actually.
Yeah. So, yeah, we defeat the heavy artillery unit, and then we run into 2B, who has defeated 2P, but then suddenly starts erupting copies of itself out of its body.
And there's a cutscene where we try to destroy them all as they summon the compound.
They basically fuse together into what is known as the compound.
Oh, hello, Castlevania. I didn't expect you to make a reference here. I thought this was Yoko Tara's gig.
Anyway, you fight the compound for a little bit, it rises up, and then all the bodies that manifest it start falling to the ground before melding back up and merging into a compound version of 2B.
Oh! That's new.
Hello, Geiger.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely horrific, and that's definitely not Castlevania at all.
No, that is body horror right there.
So this one is kind of similar, actually, to the Shadowkeeper fight from Shadowbringers, in the sense that it will do copies of the attack on top of itself to layer it.
Yeah, but you have to watch out which ones it's tethered to.
Yes.
It will do a forward strike, it will do a wide sweeping around, or it'll summon a ring of gold that you have to stand in the middle of to avoid the outward attack.
Correct.
And it is a pretty fun fight. Also, it has a tank buster where it just keeps slamming and slamming and slamming you, and if you don't position the party properly, you'll end up inside the electric wall.
Yep, it is not a fun one. I think I was healing for most of these, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you were. I think I was tanking. Yeah,
yeah, you were tanking, and I was healing because we were trying to take advantage of the tax.
Yeah, sadly that wasn't the case this time.
Well, only on the first two we were actually fairly good on. It was the third one that we couldn't get a fucking hold of.
Which is funny, because that's usually the one that procs for me.
Go figure.
But anyway, we defeat 2P, and we've defeated them for now.
Anyway, the one thing we forgot to mention was that as a result of the betrayal of the puppets, Anog is fucking horrified at her actions, because she thought that she was trying to do some real good in fixing 2P and using whatever technology that brought them there to hopefully benefit the other dwarves, and she's left heartbroken by this betrayal.
Yeah, Anog is fucking rendered speechless and locked herself up. She is
disassociating like a motherfucker.
Yeah, and it's not helping that the rest of the dwarves are actually looking for someone to blame for all of this.
Yeah, the dwarves are very temperamental and are basically looking out for blood. And I think that's initially where you start off after the dungeon quest, is basically the tribal chief rallying up the other dwarves and basically wanting to hang Anog and Kanog until the dig site chief manages to at least get them to sort out their facts and figure out why they hold the twins accountable. Ultimately,
2B and 9S show up and basically say, this is our fault, no one else is at fault, it is our fault, the blame lies with us.
To which the dwarves are not satisfied with that, but are also horrified because they're still basically facing a powerful enemy they have no way of defeating, and are basically going through an existential crisis.
Mm-hmm. So that happens. That is the end of that section. We come back, supposedly a patch later.
Right.
And we come in and see what's going on. And it turns out that we can't find Anog anywhere. So we go back into the puppet's bunker
to try and see where she went.
And at the end of everything, we find a new orb in the middle where the compound was. This thing, my friend, is a Seed of Destruction, a reoccurring thing from the Nier and Drakengard series.
Right, because Drakengard does lead into Nier somehow.
Through the joke ending.
Through a joke ending, apparently.
Yeah, through the joke ending of the original Drakengard, which leads to Nier Replicant, and then Nier Replicant, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later, leads to Automata.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we find out...
By the way, in order... For this chronological timeline, Drakengard 3 is first, then Drakengard, then there's a split timeline where Drakengard 2 happens, or Nier.
And then down the Nier timeline is where they end up with us at some point.
Yes. Yoko Taro is a fucking madman.
Indeed. And we're giving you the simplified version because we're not touching the audio dramas or the stage plays.
Oh, God. I believe Klemps did a good summarization of most of this shit back when he still did those reviews. Nowadays, he's a mouse VTuber.
Like an actual mouse?
Like, he's a mouse. He's a rat boy.
Like he's like a rat boy.
He's a rat boy VTuber.
Well, let's hope he doesn't run into Mongoose MBT.
Oh.
Do you remember that for the April Fool's bit?
The fact... I can't believe that was a fucking bit. The amount of money spent on that VTuber model. I'm mad. Moving on.
We actually end up doing an Echo Dive.
Where we find out that it turns out that Anog died in a cave-in long ago, but had been revived through the Seed of Destruction. And it is the seed that is causing all of this Nier shenaniganry.
Right, which is why 2B and 9S are trying to came to this world to basically take care of the seed and destroy it.
Yes.
So we go ahead, we find that out. We have to unfortunately go back, tell Konog of this because he does know, but he's somewhat in denial.
Yes. And when he goes back to see the seed for himself, it starts spouting out 2P clones. Which then start going fucking berserk, and shit gets crazy. We had to evacuate the puppet's bunker, as now a new tower has been built up where everything was, and that's where our final dungeon lies. The tower at Paradigm's Breach.
However, both 2B, 9S, and now Anog come back, and we now have to confront this tower together.
Yes.
So this one is very interesting and should be more familiar if you actually have played the games, in which you basically have to enter the tower's defense systems via hacking minigame, and then take care of the hacking program, taking care of the defense programs to proceed, starting with the Knave of Hearts.
The Knave of Hearts, which is one of the more infamous bosses from Nier Replicant. And it's an alright fight. It does... a single line or does two sidelines. It will make copies that will do both. It will push you, so you have to get around blocks and stuff. It's fairly simple. It's not that hard. It's Hansel and Gretel that give me trouble.
Yeah, so Hansel and Gretel basically defend one another. One of them has a upgraded shield, the other will have an upgraded lance.
And if they are close together, they will get both buffs.
So you need to make sure the tanks separate them enough that you're able to go ahead and able to actually damage them.
They will then do big sweeping axe attacks, or they will crash into one another. They will summon blades, they will summon dots, they will summon everything. Jesus fucking Christ, calm down.
Yeah, I remember with our version of taking this on, at one point near the end, the tanks could not separate them, and it became really difficult because they kept getting their own attacks reflected back at them.
Do not blame me. I was pulling that one as far away as I could.
I know it was the other idiot.
Yeah, there are two other idiots.
I know.
Oh boy. But yeah, Hansel and Gretel is okay, and then we come across the Red Girl.
Oh goody.
Oh yeah, this one caused a lot of hell because she does meteors.
Yep.
She does meteors, she will chain you and leash you and force you to march in a certain direction. You will also have to do a personal hacking minigame with this as well, where you have to change your color and fire on an orb, and I don't know what I'm doing with that.
I know, it just attack the opposite color you are.
The reason why I'm not, I love the Nier games, I love them. Yoko Taro put way too much of his essence into these raids.
Suda51 did the same thing because he did the same. He does these incredibly super detailed side games, either a railgun shooter or a down the line shooter in Shadows of the Damned. So he is just as guilty as Yoko Taro.
Yeah. But after that, we then go into a elevator where we fight off against Zunzi and Mengzi, which are similar to Koshi and Roshi from Nier Automata during that whole thing. Gotta admit, in Nier Automata, the whole fight with Koshi and Roshi happens simultaneously, and you're constantly switching between 9S A2, I believe her name is.
Oh, yeah, A2.
Yeah. And both of them are fighting back and forth, and it's the transition between them is fucking seamless. It is amazing.
And at the end of their elevator ride, we end up facing the false idol.
Basically, the red girls fuse with the Seed of Destruction and create the false idol, which then, after fighting it for a little, it's kind of interesting. It does this weird rolling beam attack, which I know got you.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. What's better is what happens halfway through the fight when it opens up the portal and fuses with what's inside to become her inflorescence.
Which is the real final boss.
Which looks like a fusion of the Red Girl, 2B, and I'm assuming Zero from Drakengard 3.
Probably.
Yeah, because it is playing the song Kaine, which is also another part of this whole thing.
Yeah, and that's a reference to both Drakengard and Nier Replicant.
Because, you've heard of Kaine from the Nier series, right?
Yes, I know of Kaine from the Nier series. I think there's a similarly named character in the Drakengard original game. 1 and 2, I believe.
Not in 1 and 2, in 3.
Oh, in 3.
3 is Zero. And then later on, it shows up that Kaine is something similar. Kaine is actually the basis for 2B. For all the 2B models.
Okay.
Which is also what A2 is as well. Yeah, so that's an interesting note. This one's weird. She summons trains. She summons
She summons Japanese-style trains with crossguards and everything. And you have to make sure you don't become isekai'd into another game.
Yes. She will summon giant towers which topple on everything. She will summon a building which comes up through a see-through floor, which has gotten you.
Yes.
They will then summon more red girls to fire off little beams. And there is also a mechanic where you have to match the different sides of your body to the song that's playing as well.
If you remember it's kind of similar to the joke ending in Drakengard, but just position yourself matching it rather than meeting the signal.
Yeah, it is a wild fight, and I've never seen it go smoothly.
Yeah, no, that one definitely is one that definitely needs work on if you want to get good at it. I can't imagine what the Savage version is like.
There is no Savage version.
No.
There is no Savage version of Alliance Raids, thank fucking God.
Yes. Okay, so that one just...
Wait, there technically is a Savage version of an Alliance Raid, but it's in Boja.
Okay. But still, there's not a copy of this that's harder somewhere.
No.
Thankfully.
People just suck at the Nier fights. They just suck. Look.
Hopefully now that it's up to 100 and there should be a wider base, those dungeons should be proccing more.
Level 1, it should.
It should.
They should go smoother, I mean, because before it was only Shadowbringers and Endwalker. The HP spun. I have noticed that since people have gotten to upper levels of level 100, the HP bars have been going a lot going a lot faster down.
Yeah, because even though you are lowered leveled, the scaling still goes ahead and weighs in the favor of more advanced players.
Yes, so that does help. It's not as bad as Crystal Tower, because Crystal Tower has been nerfed the heck in that. I'm actually wondering if they could rework that.
They should. I honestly think they should, because I can tell you, it is still a grind to go through, and there are still idiots who do not know how to deal with Cerberus, and because they're always ABC, adds, belly, chains.
Yes.
People still cannot follow that simple concept.
Yeah, sadly that is the case. But anyway, we defeat this, and basically, 2B, 9S, and Anog, all three combine their abilities to seal off the portal that was created by the Seed of Destruction. They basically have to destroy themselves and disappear completely to make sure no remnants of the Seed of Destruction remain that would cause chaos in this world.
Right. The only thing that's left is a Pod who basically narrates this to us in a very similar fashion to how after 2B and 9S self-destruct themselves at the start of Automata.
Yes.
Their bodies are posed in a similar fashion.
Yeah. The Pod tells us that we have to die, but we hope that you will remember us, that sort of thing. The whole Nier shtick.
Which also reflects well with Shadowbringer after we did the same thing to Hades.
Yes.
So yeah, that's fucking fitting. And then you kind of go back to town expecting shit to go back to normal, and not really. Kanog is absolutely devastated by the fact that his sister sacrificed herself to do this, and given the bullying that he was still facing after everything that he tried to do to make up to the other villagers in his village, he eventually decides that, and seeing us try and help rebuild after that, he realizes that he cannot do the same thing. He has to find his own strength.
So he leaves, but he promises to bring back information in the series of follow-up weekly side quests.
At the same time, the tomb site manager still needs to go ahead and help rebuild the village, and he tasked you with helping basically go back into previous dungeons, sort out any sort of rare scrap or material that you can find, and bring it back to go ahead and have the villagers sell to refund the building the village. In doing so, the villagers that ganged up on Anog and Kanog start to realize that their negative attitudes weren't really helping with the village, and they start helping out the dig site manager and you rebuild, while the village chief is still being a grump and still blaming us and the dig chief because he can't blame Anog and Kanog anymore. I haven't finished that series of weekly quests yet, but I'm hoping that probably by the next time I will be done with them, and I should be able to give a more satisfying conclusion to what happens to this story.
I don't remember how many weeks it takes, but
I think it's 5 or 6, if we recall right.
Yeah. Either way, you'll eventually get the New Game Plus for it eventually, but yeah. So, what can we say about the Nier Raids?
It's depressing as fuck, which is fitting with this expansion in particular. Like, I remember just like, they do a really good job of hammering in how much the village hates the rest of the protagonists, and just the twists and turns overall is very dramatic and fitting with the overall themes of loss that accompany Shadowbringers.
Challenge-wise?
Oh, no, it's definitely been I would say, compared to before, like, really it was only the last dungeon that got me in the Alliance Raid for Robin Astra. So the challenge here has been sufficiently stepped up.
Okay, so the Orbone Monastery, that was the last dungeon of the Evilist Raids.
Yeah.
That one got you.
That was the only one that I found was really difficult. The other two were not as bad. I also think I wasn't playing healer then. I think I was DPS for that one.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I've healed for both the Rei'tan Lighthouse and the Orbone Monastery. It is rough to heal for those, especially considering that there's a couple of Doom procs on those.
Yeah, I do feel that, like, actually, yeah, Orbone Monastery was the only one that I really felt we were challenged by. This one felt pretty consistent, at least throughout the entirety. I'm not sure if that was just me healing or whether that was genuine. I don't think tanking would make much of a difference, since that's what I consider my primary class. But I think that overall it's been fairly consistent in terms of we want a difficulty spike. I am not seeing, at least as a casual player, where it's like, okay, you chuckle fucks have had it too easy going into Endwalker. I really am stepping up. I'm really taking off the gloves with Dawn Trail. I have yet to see that. I imagine you will tell me otherwise, going through the content on your end.
Yeah, if we're talking about the current Alliance Raid, it is rough, but it has gotten a lot more manageable. But there is some stuff in there where you got to keep an eye on positions and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I will say the Alliance Raid the current Alliance Raid is definitely a step up, but I will say in a good way.
Okay.
In a good way. It is not arbitrary bullshit damage
gouging.
It is not. It is harsh, but it is fair.
It gives you enough time to say you should not get hit by this.
Yeah. It is literally saying, okay, there are these things pointing out in this direction. It is going to attack in that direction. That means get inside. If it's pointing in, don't be in.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that assessment. That's pretty fair.
Also, prepare to slide around for the final boss of the
Endwalker
of Dawn Trails.
Oh, Dawn Trails. Okay.
Yeah. Endwalker's Alliance Raid, I consider to be fairly simple. it is not as hard.
Okay.
People have argued that Endwalker's endgame content was a little too casual. Like, a lot of people complained about the size of bosses' markers.
So it's not really as much the game has been too easy. It's that Endwalker was not as challenging as people wanted, and so it's like, okay, I'll give you what you want then.
Yeah, people were also upset at the fact that there was no instance like Bozja in Endwalker.
Okay.
We got Island Sanctuary instead, and people weren't a big fan of the whole spreadsheet bullshit that you do in that.
I see.
Yeah.
As someone who says that in a second life I would have been an accountant, I'm sure I'm going to dive into that swimmingly.
Oh, I'm going to lose you in there. I can tell. But anyway, that
I'm just helping a couple of roommates build their summer home. What's wrong with that?
No, what you're doing is you're helping Tataru increase her enterprise
by giving some roommates a couple of homes
and wielding an army of mammoths. But that is for later on. Overall, what did you think of Nier Dark Yorha Dark Apocalypse?
The worst thing I can say about Yorha Dark Apocalypse is we're never going to get another one like that because it's guest content.
Yes.
That's the worst thing I can say about that. Otherwise, well-built, incredible storyline throughout. Very good challenge as far as the level that you're at. Moving story, character usage was excellent. It didn't feel like 2B and Ninus stole the show. It really focused more on the Final Fantasy characters, and I feel like it's a very appropriate and fitting theme for Shadowbringers in particular.
Yeah. My biggest complaint is just that the fights can be a little rough.
Yeah, I think that had to do...
but that's more Yoko Taro's thumbprint on this.
Also, we had to try and do the final raid twice because we could not assemble a group timely the first time we did it.
Yeah,
and even then, the second time, we still had to do a server swap in order to properly assemble a party.
Yeah, that was our biggest issue, was just waiting for the fights to proc.
So I think that has to do more with just server compatibility, enough people going and taking on higher tier stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it gets overplayed doing Crystal Tower, Sweeping City of Mach. I have not... In the time that I've done Alliance Raids, I have not run back into any of the Evilise Raids or the Dark Apocalypse Raids.
Odds are when the next Moogle Tombstone event, we'll see one of these Alliance Raids pop up again.
Probably.
So it's either going to... Odds are it's either going to be Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, or Shadowbringers. I don't really expect to see Endwalker Alliance Raids to proc up for that event. We'll see, but if it does, then I'm going to be frustrated because everyone will have done it so many times they won't want to do it again when it's time for us to actually do it.
Right. The last thing I will mention on that fact, there was something I was going to mention on that fact, now I lost it. But yeah, for the most part, that's generally my thoughts on Yorha Dark Apocalypse.
So, if you would give it a ranking...
Oh, it's 9.5 out of 10 easy.
9.5? Wow.
Yeah, no, it's really good. The only thing that I think that's stopping it from being perfect is just the lack of support for it. It is woefully criminal how difficult it is to was for us to assemble a party.
Also, I will say some of the glam in there is top tier.
Yeah, I mean, it's for all your smut needs, it will definitely service you.
I'm not even talking about the 2B outfits that you can get off drops. I'm just talking about the actual dungeon outfits are really good. Because I am trying at this moment to get the tank gear from the second dungeon.
Ah, okay.
And I am just missing the pants.
Just steal them off of someone else.
Part of me is thinking I should just use the pants from the previous one, because they're still black.
Yeah. But you know.
I know.
You know.
I have a matching set.
Alright, but that takes care of the Alliance Raids for Nier. Now we can get into the patch quests.
Yes, because the only things we had planned for this were the Nier Raids, the patch quests, and getting a little bit into Endwalker.
Correct.
So, first off, we are getting into patch 5.4, Futures Rewritten. The Scions are back in the source.
Yeah, so everyone has been put back in their bodies. Everyone is getting warmed up back into the swing of things, and Xena's looking for an axe to grind.
Yeah, so a lot of the Scions are going like, hey, we should check in on what's going on in Garlemald, since that's going on. Meanwhile, Alice is thinking, I want to try to find a cure for tempering.
Because given how basically everything we did, maybe we can actually use some of that knowledge to figure out how to undo tempering.
Yeah, because the stuff that we learned from Beck Lug about the stagnation of ether might actually help contribute to the stagnation of a person's soul when they were tempered.
Because tempering is basically an overwhelming of elemental ether rather than one based on light and dark.
Yes.
And so the tempering makes them aligned to whatever deity infused them with that tempered ether.
So, with that, Graha decides to join us on this little expedition.
Because if there's any place that has forbidden knowledge, it's going to be with the Alligans.
And we're going to need our favorite Catboy key.
So we bring him up to Azizla to go ahead and see if we can find anything of use for us.
We find a node, and there is a silly interaction where we try to solve the password with password.
Yes. To which the
node
is very respectful to Grahatia because he has blood of the royal line. The node is very respectful to us because we are guests of blood of the royal line because we also have the Aetherite.
Yeah.
And then when Y'shtola opens her mouth...
Not Y'shtola, Alice.
Alice opens her mouth. She gets clapped back by this mechanical menace.
Stand your ground. Stand back, handmaiden.
And that absolutely ruffles her feathers.
Like she is about ready to break this orb.
This is not the first time Alice will be enraged in this podcast.
No, it won't be. But anyway, we decided to say, if we can't crack the password here, let's take it to someone who we know can probably crack it.
Which means going to go talk to Sid.
Oh, City boy, we have something for you.
So, Sid and Nero, who also shows up, because remember, he is also employed with the Ironworks. With the Guardian Ironworks as of now. They both go ahead and start putting...
Well, first off, Nero doesn't show up right away. First off, it's just Sid, who helps break the password on the node, which gives us the audio log of a guy named Owen, who is basically giving his fucking thesis.
Well, do you remember what the password is also?
Freedom.
Yes. So, once we go ahead and we get the password, Owen goes and gives a dissertation about the stagnation of ether, basically reiterating somewhat of what we knew from the earlier Shadowbringers arc.
Yeah, so basically... The soul is stagnated by a surplus of an elemental ether, and if they keep getting influenced by that, they will eventually turn into monsters.
Now, it is possible that if you get someone who's been influenced by ether before the monstering stage, you can go ahead and temper them. You can go ahead and detemper them by basically restoring the elemental balance to them. The problem is that they have not been able to successfully do that yet without killing the subject.
Yeah, mainly because it's also a matter of the soul and memories.
Right.
They have to find a way to rouse old memories while suppressing the memories of where they were once they were tempered.
Right. So that is the problem that the Alligans were stalled by, and Owen's research was halted shortly after this point.
By Lord Aemon.
Thus,
he will show up again soon.
Which unfortunately prevented Owen from doing anything further. That said, the actual process of trying to run experiments to figure out how this would work is something that would take tons of supercomputers in order to actually focus.
So, we call upon everyone's help. Not everyone's help. What we do is, Sid asks us to get both ice crystals and ceruleum, while he gets the computer running. He's basically going to use that Allagan node that we've been given to run the processes over and over and over and over and over again, basically overclocking it to figure out the freaking spell that we need, because the Allagans actually knew how to computate spells.
However, it was going to take a lot of time and resources.
This is where Nero comes in to help.
We also get in the midst of this, we do also visit Ishgar for the ceruleum, running into Lord Emmerich, who is more than happy to go ahead and give us all the ceruleum we need.
Yeah, he's basically like, put it on my tab.
Yes.
I mean, he is the head of the House of Lords, so I'm pretty sure...
Right.
I'm pretty sure he has a substantial budget.
He's basically the prime minister now of the Ishgardians.
Yeah, despite the fact that he did not want it.
Right, well, he's basically that world's of George Washington, so it makes sense.
Fair enough. But anyway, we get the crystals, we run the computations, we are sitting there bored out of our fucking mind while Sid and Nero make NFTs.
And the computer gets fed up with their nonsense and starts to melt down, but it manages to go ahead and create the spell that's necessary, to which Graha uses his photographic memory to memorize it before it completely overloads and explodes.
Yep, which means we have a spell. Now to test it out.
Which he is able to do, which they decide to go ahead and test on Gabu.
Yes, our little kobold friend from a while back that had imprinted itself pretty much on Alisaie.
Imprinted itself on Alisaie and was minorly tempered by Titan.
Yes, when it accidentally summoned it.
So the actual process of untempering Gabu is possible.
It just requires a fuck ton of ether.
Which, even with the combined efforts of Alisaie, Y'shtola, and
Alphino
and Graha, that they are barely able to go ahead and help out Gabu.
Yeah. It basically took a surplus of ether from Alphino and Y'shtola, channeled into Graha, for him to be able to even cast the spell onto the Porksy that could basically implement the detempering.
Which was Alisaie's Porksy, which is Angela.
Yes.
So that's the foursome combination needed to do this. It's successful. It turns Gabu British.
Yes. A young little orphan boy.
Yes. Please, he becomes Tiny Tim.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yes. So he does get his sanity back. He does remember his memories while tempered, but he also remembers the emotions that occurred thereof.
Yes.
As this is going down, Gabu is kept with the Yellow Jackets to rest up because they're still monitoring to make sure that everything works out. To which we go ahead and get a request from good old Merweb.
Yes.
Who wants to go ahead and wants to try and make peace with the kobolds. Because all the while we've been having our shenanigans in the first, the world leaders have been trying to make headway and make peace with the societies.
Which has been going hit or miss depending on the tribes.
The biggest problem, especially for the Limps and Lominsons, is the fact that the pirates still technically broke the deal first.
They broke the pact with the kobolds first, and so it is on their heads to try to fix this. But that will have to come later because, first off, Y'shtola brings up the idea of a way to mass-produce the Porksies.
Oh, I just remembered. There was one bit that we did gloss over because it's going to become relevant later.
Oh?
In terms of getting the crystals,
yeah,
we actually have to do a side quest through Limsa.
Oh, really?
To go ahead and deal with or is that later?
That is later.
Okay, then I'm confusing myself.
You are messing up the timeline.
Okay.
The timeline happens, we cure Gabu, we try to figure out what is how to make more
okay, we're trying to mass-produce Porksies.
Yes.
To which, obviously, the answer is to go talk to the best sage in the land, Master Matoya. No, not that one.
Yes.
To the actual Matoya of this world, not Y'shtola putting on her mentor as a persona.
Yes, we go there, to which Alphino decides to open his fat trap and mention that Y'shtola was playing as Matoya in the other world.
To which the actual Matoya is rather amused and begins giving Y'shtola a hard time.
Yes. Oh, it's nothing for the great Master Matoya, isn't it? She is going to hang that over Y'shtola's head until the day that old bat croaks.
Yep. Yes, she is.
But anyway, she says, there is a way that we can mass-produce Porksies. We're just going to have to go into my old lair.
And clean it out.
To which begins the dungeon, Matoya's Relict. Cue the Banjo-Kazooie music.
I thought it was initially a Fantasia music, but that's just me imprinted too much on the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Fair enough. I mean, it is both the Sorcerer's Apprentice and Banjo-Kazooie as fuck.
So
I felt like I was in Gruntilda's lair.
Yeah, I would agree with that argument. So we have to do 3 steps in order to do this. We have to get
the mud, get the water, and fire up the kiln.
Yes, and doing so, we take care of the two bosses plus a mini boss.
Yeah,
for stoking up the kiln. To which we prepare the Porksy of all Porksies,
the Mother Porksy.
To which we now have to go ahead and how do I want to phrase this? Because this can go poorly in a lot of ways. Beat the tar out of this salad so she gives us what she wants.
Pretty much. I will mention that the second boss, the water boss, is actually one of Y'shtola's familiars.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in Endwalker. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, we fight the pig, and G'raha then casts his spell on the mother pig, so she has the tempering spell within her.
In all other porksies she then produces will also carry that spell innately.
Which will mean a lot less ether needs to be used to make the porksies.
Yes, which means that even a group of regular healers will be able to assist in curing tempering, albeit not as quickly as the party can.
Yeah. To which, then we go back to Limsa to offer the porksie, to which we then talk about the kobolds and the Sahagin.
Yes. So, if you recall, originally there was going to be a deal between the pirates and the kobolds, so where the kobolds got the land, the pirates got the ocean, and the Sahagin can go fuck off.
Yeah.
However,
back then, the Sahagin weren't really a thing. They only started to show up after the Calamity had destroyed their spawning grounds.
Right. Still, the pirates went back on the word, invaded Limsa, and started taking over, which led to the great resentment between the kobolds and the Limsans.
Yes. So now, Merlweb wants to renew the pact. She wants to annul the old one and create a new one with better terms for all. To do that, however, she needs the aid of the other pirate lords.
Which she has for the most part, except for the one, the
Bloody Executioners.
The Bloody Executioners, who were the longest-standing pirates of the ones who would do piracy. The other pirating guilds, the Kraken and the Sirens, have somewhat gone on a decline as they are trying to find new ways to make money, because with the Garlean Civil War, no Garlean ships are going out to do trade, meaning that there are no supply vessels to raid, meaning no piracy is occurring.
Which means they had to find other ways to help them, especially the Sirens, who actually help their retiring members get back into a decent life.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of retraining amongst themselves, and even
social work at that.
Social work. The Krakens themselves are sort of taking up merchanteering, which, again, see my earlier comments regarding Carvillian's father, and how that kind of reflects into that. It's actually very topical that I ended up doing his, unlocking his custom delivery after doing this.
I mean, that's basically around the same time when it happens, so
right.
This actually coincides pretty well. With that, however, we find out that the Bloody Executioners have been doing pretty well for themselves.
Which it should be impossible given the fact that there should be no legal pirate vessels to raid upon. So who are they raiding?
Turns out that they're raiding the kobolds themselves by stealing their crystals and selling the crystals marked up.
Right, to whoever they can sell it to on the black market.
We know that the current leader of the Bloody Executioners, the actual captain, is basically sick and dying.
Right.
And so he's had his second in command take up the lead, a man by the name of Sickard.
Who has been refusing any attempts to go ahead and negotiate from Merlweb herself, which is, how the hell has he not gotten the ire of the Yellow Jackets or the Thieves Guild, for that matter? Because the Thieves Guild technically is supposed to be the one that, you break Merlweb's rules, we break your shins.
He must think he's above the law.
He is all that in a bag of chips, which forces us to go ahead and pose as a narc to go ahead and do it, but not us because we're the Warrior of Light and it'd be too obvious. No,
G'raha!
We have to send poor old Titty G'raha. Boy, that was a wrong. I meant Kitty Raha, but whatever. I'm gonna say.
I mean, some people want to see those kitty titties.
We send out G'raha Tia to go ahead and pose as a buyer, with his staff being the primary motive for his need of high value crystals.
Right.
He kind of stumbles into that, unfortunately, because he is not quite groomed for surveillance work, but he manages to make do, and we end up seeing where the Bloody Executioners are hoisting their trade within the mines.
Yep. But we end up getting caught by everyone, and we have a nice little chat with Sickard,
who basically says, fine, I'll go ahead and agree to talk to Merlweb, but she comes onto my ship to do so.
And it's basically turns into a duel.
Mm-hmm.
Because Merlweb goes onto the ship. All the Bloody Executioners are rallying and drunk, and
they are basically anxious as hell because of the fact that Merlweb, in her decree, wants to go ahead and basically piracy is over. Yeah. Piracy was only meant as a solution because the Garleans were being dicks. With the Garleans basically taking care of themselves, Limsa has to go into a new direction, which is what Merlweb is trying to take them. The Bloody Executioners see that as a betrayal of their own identity because they have always been pirates. And so without people to plunder from, who are they? But nobody's in their own words, which is why they've rallied around Sigurd.
And then Sigurd says, there's only one way to settle this, and Merlweb knows a duel.
So bear in mind, he challenges not only the head captain of Limsa, but also the woman who was not afraid to put bullet holes into
her own captain's head when he got tempered.
Right, which is why also one of the reasons why she is so feared and has the gun that she does.
Yeah, bloody death penalty.
I've been looking for this. Is there a playable copy of Death Penalty?
I do not know if there is or not.
That would be amazing to have as a clamor.
Oh yeah, that would work great for a machinist, but yeah.
Oh, wait, I just had a thought.
What?
Don't tell me it's a fucking Maelstrom weapon. I bet you there's a playable copy, but it's a Maelstrom lieutenant weapon.
I don't know.
I would not doubt that.
I would have to take a look and see for myself.
I bet you it's a Maelstrom machinist weapon.
I'll have to take a look. Don't
quote you.
Don't quote me on that. I will look for you.
Okay.
If it's something similar, I will let you know.
Okay. Anyway, Sigurd gets outdrawn because of course he is. What kind of idiot are you?
Yeah, I would tell you right now, this is the best glazing that Merlweb has gotten. Because
what do you mean glazing? He's the one that literally has cream on his face from getting Merlweb's load busted all over him.
But what I'm saying is, this was a great highlight for Merlweb.
Oh, in the same way that the ARR quest lines were for Raoban and Nanamo?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this basically made Merlweb my favorite of the three city leaders.
I can see that.
And Connie Senna continues to get shafted.
Yeah, she ain't getting jack and shit.
I mean, to be honest, Gridania's racist as fuck.
Yeah.
You gotta fix a lot of problems in there. And I'm going to tell you right now, Connie, you're a fucking wet blanket.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, Merlweb beats his ass, and when Sigurd tries to do a cheap shot at her, his own captain shoots the gun out of his hand and tells him, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Not in such dire terms, but he does give him a dressing down about, one, you are not the captain, you are acting captain. I'm still the one in charge of the ship.
Second of all, we all answer to the captain of the great ship Limsa.
Yeah.
We answer to the admiral. We will follow her into hell, if need be.
Yes. And reinforces that authority to Merlweb is above all else. The other executioners fall in line, and both the captain of the Bloody Executioners and Merlweb have a quick chat about death penalty and its history.
Yes.
Which again goes to the fact that when Merlweb's former captain was tempered, she took his own weapon and shot him through the head to go ahead and make sure that he was not in charge anymore.
By the way, the name of Merlweb's old pirate crew was the League of Lost Bastards. I love that name.
Yeah, that's a pretty fucking good name. Nonetheless, with the quarreling in Limsa quieted, Merlweb can now confidently go into the Titan's belly to go ahead and negotiate with the Patriarch. This involves an instance in which you have to weaken a bunch of enemies, while also giving Alice your own ether so that she can go ahead and undo the tempering on the Patriarch, which consequently leaves you more and more weaker every time you fight, to the point that you basically are, by the end, you're fighting one last fucking enemy with having basically the stats equivalent to level 10.
Yeah.
And having to go ahead and run around making sure you don't die on yourself.
Yeah, that's a fun fight. I think I died on my first time going through that. It was rough.
It wasn't that bad for me. The main thing was just making sure that no one got that I didn't drop myself. At the end of it, the Patriarch does come back to his senses. Gabu does also show up because he did want to see everything that was going on. He is more reasonable, but he hasn't forgotten what happened to what the pirates did to the kobolds, even while tempered. And that rage in and of itself prevents him from entering into negotiations with Merlwyb.
So instead, she takes her gun, she tosses it to the Patriarch and says, "That is death penalty. I used that to kill my former leader. Use that on me. Kill me, annul the old pact, and write a new one in my blood." And God, that is fucking hard.
Yeah, she went hard with that one. Nonetheless, Gabu preaches for a more moderate approach, and while the Patriarch does fire a round off, he does purposely miss Merlwyb, and agrees that while he's not ready to not agree to everything right away, he is willing to at least hear her out.
She will not trust her just yet, but she will trust Gabu and his intentions, and he will hold on to that.
Mm-hmm. And the Patriarch also has, after he's untempered, the realization of what he did to Gabu's parents and his own remorse in his role for that.
Yeah, he realized, oh shit, I literally went crazy. That was not good.
I will say that's probably one of the best things I think I like about this patch, is the fact that they show that the tempering is not a willful mind control. The person does remember everything that they did, and it does show willful remorse on behalf of the Patriarch, at least, for his role in what he did to poor Gabu.
Yeah. The Ascians literally embedded something in the summoning that just corrupts people.
It binds them to whatever the tempering process was, but it is good to see that there is this accountability internally taken for the actions, even while tempered, which I thought is just really good storytelling.
Again, this game is fucking great at telling a story. You will be on the edge of your seat sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic.
And you think everything is all sunshine and rainbows when we come out of the kobold's den. Where the hell did that 5G tower come from?
And this is where we find out that basically a bunch of towers have shown up, and a fucking Bahamut clone is over Alamigo.
We head to Alamigo, we go to the Royal Menagerie Gardens, and we get introduced properly to Fandaniel.
So, Fandaniel, who is possessing the body of Asahi, basically declares war, saying that he is a sundered Ascian who disagrees with everything that Emet-Selch was doing, and basically says, yeah, End of Days, I liked it so much, I'm going to give it an encore performance for everyone.
Yes, he wants to recreate the final days, take everything out in a paroxysm of suffering and pain, and kill himself.
Right. This is basically all one final last hurrah, and he intends to make it everyone's problem.
By the way, Xenos sends his regards.
And he does inform the Scions that, yeah, Xenos is back, have fun with that, and introduces his new pet, Luna Bahamut, which somehow has the powers of the original Bahamut, but not quite as sturdy.
Not as sturdy and not as destructive, because keep in mind, that last one basically caused a calamity.
Mm-hmm. But scouts have gone to these towers to see what's going on, and they come back spouting glory of Garlemald and attack their own allies.
Meanwhile, Kryl is saying, we need to figure out what the hell the Telophoroi are even up to, so we need to call on the help of Sharlayan.
Which she intends to do so in the background, and that's more or less where the patch ends. In the post-patch cutscene, we see Xenos going through a bunch of different weapons as he's trying to find a new toy to play with us when we have our eventual rematch.
But no, that is at the end of patch 5.5, not 5.
Oh no, he just wants.
He breaks his katana. He steps on his katana and breaks it, saying, "I need a new weapon."
Okay,
yeah,
so that's what happens at 5.4.
Yeah, so 5.4 thoughts?
No, that was a really fantastic patch. I think the dungeon was maybe just a little bit more fanciful than I was expecting, but it still fit within the confines of the storyline. Really, the instance is really where the meat and potatoes of this patch is, and just seeing I would say the pedestaling of Merlwyb as a leader is absolutely put on display here, and she pulls it off with aplomb.
Yeah, I really love the way that they promoted Merlwyb in this one, because We had been doing so much with so many different people, so many times. We actually got a chance to go back to the world of ARR and solve some of its lingering problems.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we got the tempering issue sorted out. I do think they gave Merweb the Nanamo treatment in terms of, like, look, we're going to go ahead and show them getting some personal growth as well. That's not happening to fucking Gridania. That's just not happening to Gridania unless they pull out some nonsense in future Dawn Trail patches. I don't see that happening, but it could happen.
I'm not seeing that either. We are too focused in the new world to even consider going back to Eorzea.
Though again, if we're going to deal with racism, we have a prime candidate to start dealing with that.
Yeah, fair enough. So,
but yeah, I would definitely say this is like an 8, 8.5, 9 easy.
All right.
In terms of like, traditional rating, it's fantastic. It's definitely a highlight. It did seem like a bit of a slog just because of all the running around, but honestly, it was definitely worth it.
All right. Next, we go into patch 5.5, Death Unto Dawn, Part 1.
So, with the new threat firmly established, our question is now having to deal with these towers that are popping up all over the place.
We find out immediately that if you go near one, you get tempered and become a Garlean servant.
So, meaning only certain members of the Scions are going to be capable of taking care of that. Enter Arnvald, who basically signs up for this mission with the assistance of Fordola,
who is currently wearing a bomb attached to her throat.
Again, remnants of the Stormblood arc, in which she is basically sent out on missions such as these as probation.
Yeah.
To go ahead and wear off the sentence of her crimes.
Which Arnvald and Alphinaud have a little brotherly chat, pretty much,
yes.
Where Alphinaud's saying that one day you'll be looking up to me when I grow up.
Mm-hmm. Also, we should mention that Alphinaud also gives a lot of commentary in the previous chapter about how he's amazed at Alicey's, I guess, determination to go ahead and save Gabu, as well as her own ingenuity when it comes to basically being the inventor of untempering magics. It is discussed prior to this point and further on that between the two of them, Alphinaud is considered the scholar.
Yes.
Although this should be proof that Alicey is no slouch in her own right.
No, Alicey may prefer to kick ass, but she knows her skills where she has them.
Yes.
Which is funny considering, I believe in the Red Mage questline, wasn't it established that Alicey had a little trouble with healing spells?
Yes. Although she does eventually get over that, at least by the time she gets her Red Mage stuff. And it does get brought up later on that she is as competent a healer within the party that she could assist in some of the other matters that come up later on.
Yeah, just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, but nonetheless, since they need people who cannot be tempered, Arnvald and Fordola are dispatched to go investigate the tower in Girabania.
Not in Girabania, it's the one in Pagalthon.
Oh, Pagalthon.
Yeah, it's the one in Pagalthon that they go to.
Okay. So they go ahead and are sent out there while the Scions look into dealing with Luna Bahamut.
So, with that, Tataru basically brings up the fact that she mentioned Lunar Bahamut to Estinian, who was seemingly gone to Ishgard.
To which the twins and the Warrior of Light decide to go out and meet him there, hopefully so that they can get a ride together and find out and coordinate efforts.
Raha also tags along because he wants to be everywhere the Warrior of Light is.
And also wants to meet the fabled Estinian, what is his surname?
His actual surname is Varlino, but he goes by Estinian Wormblood.
Wormblood. So, wants to meet the great Estinian Wormblood. So, the party separates to go ahead and try and track him down, because Estinian is hard to locate if your name is not Trial or Tataru Taru.
Yeah.
And in doing so, Alicey, Graha, and the War of Light run into Estinian, but not before Estinian mistakes Alicey for Alphinaud.
To which she does the biggest scream of, "I am not Alphinaud!"
And she incredibly chews out a dense Estinian who does not realize that Alphinaud is a twin sister. Again, she was out ill from the assassin attack in the start of the Ishgard storyline, and so she was out of commission when Estinian and Alphinaud went on their many adventures together.
Right.
So that is it. I just realized between that happening to Alicey and Kryl effectively being iced as part of Stormblood, the women really get shafted as story missions, don't they?
I mean, they do, because, Y'shtola got fucking iced as well in Stormblood.
Y'shtola got iced twice. She got iced once
in ARR.
She gets iced again in Stormblood, and then she sacrifices herself for a hat trick that requires Emet-Selch to pull her out of the live stream again.
I swear to God, if that woman uses flow again, I am not pulling her out.
You're going to keep her there?
Yes.
And then when you go meet her, the amount of mommy punishing she's going to give you?
I will just say, I told you so every goddamn moment of it.
Mm-hmm. Still, considering that Bahamut's visage is being basically paraded around like a corpse, the consensus is to go ahead and talk to Tiamat, the Bahamut's mate.
Yes.
And to which...
Bahamut's mate and sister.
Trust me,
it's alien dragon physiology. Don't question it. Don't question it. Yes. Don't question it.
So, nonetheless, we go to Aethercast to talk to Tiamat again, who goes ahead and explains that she basically doesn't remember anything since her initial rage was used to bring about Bahamut the first time, but she's rightly chuffed
that's being used the second time.
That she would like to go ahead and rage, but knows that she's basically been weakened too long, being a Allagan prisoner, that she is just as likely to be vulnerable to tempering as is anyone else.
To be honest, it's very likely that she is still tempered from her first attempt at summoning Bahamut.
So we have to go ahead and untemper Tiamat, while also undoing the chains that bind her in the Aethercast prison.
Yeah. So we had to undo both the mental chains and the physical ones on this woman.
Jeez, I didn't know we were playing Phoenix Wright as well, doing Cyclops and shit.
Oh, God.
Nonetheless, we managed to go ahead and with the assistance of Angelo.
Yes, that Porksy is going to become a Deus Ex Machina for the rest of the game.
Deus Suide Machina.
Oh boy.
Deus Ex Suide. God out of the pig.
God out of the pig.
Yes.
Thank you for the Latin.
Mm-hmm. So either way, as this is going on, we find out shit's breaking down in Pagathan because apparently...
Lunar Bahamut decided to show up.
Well, no, I thought what happened to Arnvald and Fordola happens first.
No, it does. It happens later.
Okay, so...
Well, it happens around the same time that we're fighting Lunar Bahamut.
Okay, so either way, shit's going down in Pagathan. Estinian says no time, jumps on Tiamat's back, and they ride off into combat. We have to go ahead and run around the conventional way to get to Pagathan.
We have to go to Ul'dah. We have a talk with the Sultana, who gives us a pep talk, and we go ahead and go into the final dungeon of Shadowbringers, Pagathan.
Which is, in my mind, very similar to the Gimlet Dark. It's very similar to me in that sort of chaotic battlefield way.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, because you're fighting both Dragons of Mericidia, who are under Fandaniel's control,
as well as Tempered Amalja, who are also...
Tempered Amalja and Tempered Garleans. Mm-hmm. Or... whatever's left.
So, well, they're being reformatted as Telophora right now.
Yes.
So, dealing with them, it's a massive all-out brawl with guest characters popping in for cameo appearances, including Amalja, who are actually helping you take out one of the mini-bosses along the way.
There's even a kobold that helps, because they're actually helping now that the pact has been... reformed,
yes.
Which I thought was actually a pretty cool touch. I will say that our run of it together was hell for the first boss.
Yeah, what was it? It was the samurai. Because we were still doing DP. We were still doing healer tank. It was our DPSs that were fucking up.
Yes, I was really bad at explaining that first boss's mechanics because you basically have to take you get a lightning strike targeted towards you.
Yes.
You have to take it to a tower and then get away of the AoE.
Okay, if you told me it was like the first boss from the Aerie, I would have picked up on it faster. Because that's basically the same thing you have to do in that fight.
Yeah, my brain did not conflate the two.
Yeah, and one of the things, it is a really interesting retelling of that, but there's a lot more going on in that fight to where it's a lot more challenging to get yourself to a post.
Yeah.
But barring that, it's actually not too bad once you know what the fuck you're doing.
The second boss is a series of waves of attacks where of ads where you have to take them on. There are missiles and lasers going off that you have to dodge,
and then you go attack the enemy's exposed core after you exhaust the wave and its obstacles.
Yes,
And that one was actually fairly decent. It was the first fight and Lunar Ifrit that were a pain.
Lunar Bahamut.
Lunar Bahamut that were a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And I blame that more on just our DPS being numbnuts than anything else.
Yeah, they were both Aura, and they had no profile pictures, so I was already knowing, like... And also, they were watching the cutscenes, so I was like, oh, they're new.
They're new, but they were really noobish. Like, they weren't even fucking mitigating right. They were outright tanking, face tanking some of these attacks they should have been dodging.
Regardless, we managed to take down Lunar Bahamut relatively easy. I should also mention that throughout this entire dungeon, Tiamat is mowing down enemies for us. We actually had to guide the ads into her range of her breath attacks and stuff. And we even get to ride on some of her children into the big golden fields of Pagathlon, which is a really beautiful sight.
It's an excellent view for that. I'm surprised there aren't more people doing glam shots in there.
I know, it is really good. But we defeat Lunar Bahamut, things start to die down. Tiamat basically wrests control of all her dragons away from Fandaniel.
Taking them back to the Eyrie.
It's not to the Eyrie. She's taking them back to Mericidia.
Oh, Mericidia. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's at this point that we get to a cutscene where Arnvald and Fordola are infiltrating the tower in Pagathlon, in which they basically see that a bunch of the Amalja are HR Geigered into the wall, and Arnvald's attempt to free one of them ends up triggering the alarm, which not only kills them all, but also summons a Lunar Ifrit to go ahead and fight them.
It's not killing them, it's draining their ether.
Okay, I assumed insta-death because of things that happen later, but draining them of their ether is also fair.
No, if you fully rip them out, they will die.
Okay.
Yeah, but no. He just literally triggered the alarm system, and Lunar Ifrit gets summoned, to which starts to attack Fordola, to which Arnvald rushes in to save her. Cut to black.
Right.
We also, after clearing the dungeon, the Amalja leader says, "Thank you for your help, for defending us. We will fight at your side to stop this Garlean threat."
And so now the Amalja are fully considering joining the alliance.
Yes.
Of course, with everything that was going on, we do find out that, of course, Arnvald got injured in his escape attempt with Fordola, to which Alphina goes into a panic given the earlier conversation they had.
Yeah. He goes there, the Kyurgen is basically saying he needs to rest now, you wait. Fordola basically digs into Alphino for being a prissy, optimistic person, and...
Estinian actually defends him to a degree, saying that we do need optimists like him, because otherwise the world's filled with a bunch of bloodthirsty cynics like you and me.
I'm glad that they... You know what? This is actually counterintuitive to what I think, but I'm glad that Fordola is still as big a bitch as she is.
I think so. I think that's just like she would be that way. She is not, unlike earlier where we were just talking about the patriarch having very remorse. Fordola is someone who did everything she did out of necessity. Her reluctance to do right is to still do right by her parents' name and by her bloodline, not because she was remorseful for what action she took. She did everything she needed to survive.
Yeah, she did what she had to do. I'm just amazed that people still shit on her.
I think that's just because, again,
Although I think it's just because the Final Fantasy community is extremely sexist.
I think it just has to do with... Fordola is, in a lot of ways, and I'm going to borrow a Baldur's Gate reference very quickly, she's very similar to... I forgot what her name was. Shooting. She's my favorite character.
Minthara?
No, God, no. The Githyanki girl.
The Githyanki. Oh, okay. I don't remember her name.
Yeah, not Karlach, not Minthara. It's going to bother me. But she's similar to that character because they have very similar ideas in that they're indoctrinated into a very warrioristic lifestyle and doing what they have to do to survive. And then they get betrayed by everything that they're told, and that causes a discrepancy. The difference is, whereas the Baldur's Gate 3 character sort of has a coming to terms with that and decides to do better, literally by taking care of her former leader's throne and kicking her out. Fordola is much more obstinate, and so while she's not remorseful for her own actions... Lae'zel, yeah. She's basically like Lae'zel, because a lot of Lae'zel hate is very similar to Fordola hate.
Really?
Yeah, I would say that very clearly, and so that's the parallels I'm seeing there. I think Lae'zel's still better written because Lae'zel actually realizes, yeah, I kind of fucked up by following this mentality, and I do need to change. And you do see Lae'zel change.
Yeah.
When she goes through that arc.
has changed a little, but we'll talk.
Fordola has not changed as much yet.
Yeah.
And I think even after the change, where Lae'zel ends up is still leagues ahead of where Fordola is. And so I think that's at least part of the reason why. And I think also just because if you want, I call her Punch Princess all the time because I think that's endearing. Lise has a similar is Fordola's foil, and Lise also gets the equal amount of hate because of her backstory baggage. But putting that aside, her personality is way better, and she's much more optimistic. And I think she would again. That's why those two are foiled. You know,
it's funny. I saw a video recently on who's the main character of Final Fantasy XIV.
That is a very interesting question. And I'm gonna deny it's not the Warrior of Light.
It is not the Warrior.
We are a point of view character who gets a lot of shit done. I think there's
we are often a Deus Ex Machina for when things shit hit the fan.
I would say, broadly speaking, that the Scions are the protagonists as a whole, because I think a lot of the stuff revolves around them, and then there are times we are the point of view for Ivalice itself, for not Ivalice, for Eorzea itself, when we go through side quests, when we accompany people on their own endeavors, and we get it's a story of the world, a story of the setting, rather than of any individual character. But for the main scenario quest, I would say the Signs of the Seventh Dawn.
Yeah, I will say, for the most part, I agree with that. I will say that certain characters are given the main character slot, even though they don't fully qualify as main characters. Like in Stormblood, like in Heaven's Ward, it's an ensemble cast of the Warrior of Light, Estinian, Alphinaud, and Iceheart.
Right. Iceheart becomes a temporary protagonist, and I would also, of course, throw in our good old boy, Porchevant.
Yes. For Stormblood, I would say that the focus character is Lise and Hien.
Lise and Hien with supporting cast from Yugiri, Minago, Gosetsu, and
the Steppe Folk.
And the Steppe Folk, yeah. I would definitely agree to that.
In Shadowbringers, I would say that is the one time where the Warrior of Light has gotten main character treatment.
I would say that, but it's double billing with the Crystal Exarch.
It is double billing with the Crystal Exarch, and even then, there's also Emet-Selch to consider.
Yeah, I would consider this is Emet-Selch's story as much as it is either of theirs.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that, and Arnbold also gets the guest starring role as well.
So, moving on, though.
But I would say, but that does bring to mind a lot of their own interactions, and eventually everyone goes back to the Rising Stones to go ahead and get rest, since it's going to be some time before Arnbold is released from the Chirurgeons, to which, realizing that they are kind of short on staff, Tataru makes an offer to Estinian to have him join the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, since they will be needing his continued support.
Pretty much. To which Estinian basically agrees because...
Under duress.
Somewhat under duress, but also because he wants to help Alphinaud, because he believes in the future that Alphinaud wants.
Right, and Estinian very much is similar to Zero from the Mega Man X games, because Zero keeps that mentality very much throughout. He considers himself the tool to X's dream of a world of peace, and to the very extent Estinian feels that bond with Alphinaud.
Yeah, because Estinian went through hell being possessed by Nidhogg.
Mm-hmm.
He got saved by Alphinaud and his dreams and his ideals. Alphinaud and the Warrior of Light created peace for Ishgard in a way that he never thought would be possible.
And by ways that he could never perform himself.
Yes.
And so I think that's at least part of the reason why Estinian agrees, even though he also is worried about being hunted down by Tataru again.
Yes. So while the Scions rest, Kryl contacts Sharlayan for their assistance.
And to see what they know about the Telophoroi.
Yes. And so we then jump forward a little bit of time to patch 5.55, Death Unto Dawn Part 2.
To which we go ahead and we are assembled back in
Alamigo,
because not only are the various nations discussing what to do about the towers, they also are incorporating the societies to join them alongside, being the Amalja, the Ixal, the Sahagin, and the Sylphs.
Basically, all the beast tribes. I hate to say it, but that's what they were called back then.
I still am going to use societies because that's what we call them now, but either way, the societies of Eorzea are joining forces with the city-states to go ahead and create a unified force to go ahead and deal with the Telophoroi.
To which we suggest calling it the Grand Company of Eorzea.
Much to Alphinaud's shock and horror, because if you recall back in ARR, that was his ultimate goal in starting with the Crystal Braves.
Mm-hmm.
That he wanted to basically create a continent-wide peacekeeping force created of all of people of all origins. And now it's being produced here, which causes him some discomfort in part of the fact that he made a lot of mistakes when he was trying to assemble the Crystal Braves.
To which Connie Senna actually says, some of our Beast Tribe members don't know how to properly fight or even know how to even work as a unit. To which, you ran the Crystal Braves. You must know something or even have some ideas that you could offer. To which Alphinaud says, not only do I have that, I have been taking painstaking notes upon my own failures on how to remedy them.
And the only thing that he missing his outside point of view from other members who were once in the Crystal Braves, which leads us to go seek out some of those former members to get their opinions.
Yes, to which we go to the Scions because most of them have joined the Scions.
Right. He gets his feedback, most of it having to do with the fact that in the past people didn't really have a unified purpose. They were going there for many reasons, some of which were genuine, as the remaining members who joined the Scions did.
Like Riol.
Others were swayed under
Telegiata
Legi's coin, or out of, and I can't remember his name, but Sloppy Guys.
Ilbert.
Ilbert's promises of taking back Alamigo, which caused some of them to defect to his side, even after the Crystal Braves fell, and he still used that influence to cause the tragedy at
Baelsar's Wall.
At Baelsar's Wall.
Which, he takes that all into consideration, he finishes up his notes, and the first people to actually get those notes are the Sylphs.
Because the Sylphs, being mostly non-combatant, are basically going to be deployed as message couriers.
Message couriers and assistants and the like. And at the same time, Alice is also helping this.
And has notified us that a member of the Charlian Forum is being sent to Gridania to address recent concerns.
One Fortuno Leveilleur.
So, I will go ahead and make this known. I thought this entire time the kids were technically orphans because the only members of their family they talked about was Grandpappy Louis Sois. So I fully assumed their parents were dead when everything was going down since ARR.
Nope, they are spoiled little kids with a happy mother and a grumpy father.
So this is where we found out that they actually have a family. And the Leveilleur line does run paternally because Fortunault is Louis Sois' son.
Yes.
So Fortunault is their parents, and both the twins are very happy to hear that their father is coming, and they're hoping to have a happy reunion with them.
To which, at first, it seems like it.
It's more or less. Fortunault comes off as sort of like the very stern fatherly figure, which, again, coming from the son of Louis Sois, a little bit jarring, but understandable.
I mean, Fortunault kind of took to the idea of Charlian's ideas of non-intervention more than Louis Sois did, who thought he could do more.
Right, and obviously it's clear that the sensibleness in the Leveilleur family skips a generation.
Yeah.
So Fortunault basically comes down, has some banter with his kids, and then basically turns to Connie Senna and says, "Look, Charlian has a long-standing tradition of non-militarism with you barbarians. We are not going to give you anything about what this alleged final last days is going to be. In fact, if it was the last days, we would fucking know." And then he basically, this causes reactions out of Alice and Alphinaud, who basically are both saying, why do you not want to help us when everything is going to shit? To which he basically says, look, you two little brats have been running around on your own since your grandpappy left. I have had enough of it. You are disgracing the family name. I'm disowning you.
To which every single warrior of light in Final Fantasy XIV said, fuck you, Fortuno, these kids are mine! I
have only known 3 really global enemies in the Final Fantasy XIV community. The Lalafels are universally despised as the most hated player race. Maybe behind some... So, I'm going to take a side detour. Apparently, there's a lot of discourse about fake male Vera in the Final Fantasy community. Apparently, there's a bunch of fuckboy Veras running around, and people are pissed off about that. I have no fucking clue, but the Final Fantasy community is fucking weird. Yes. But anyway,
Lalafels,
the fucking Namazu.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker.
Yes.
Like, as far as, like, universally despised enemies, this is one of them.
Yes.
Like, you have not made a more hated enemy since Asahi. Oh, yeah. Asahi would obviously fill in those rankings. But yeah, you have not created a more hated NPC since Asahi.
Yeah.
And you have done it in probably just as quick an amount of time as it took for us to hate Asahi.
Pretty much, because, like I said, as soon as I saw that happen in real life, I was like, you know what? Fuck you. Alphino, Alize, you're my kids now.
And it's really just funny, just the quickness of, like, this, and, like, it's really baffling that it makes me really wonder, like, in all those cutesy arts that I see of, like, people drawing Alphino and Alice as kids, like, it really brings to mind the kind of household they really grew up in, especially after you meet their mom. I'm keeping that commentary for later, but we basically do know they both have parents. We just haven't met mom yet.
Yeah.
But given that is their dad, I have questions.
Yeah.
I have questions. Nonetheless, the kids, the Liviers are left heartbroken as their father fucks off. The messages relate to Kryl, who basically repeats some of the things I was saying about, they said they would know what the final days would be like if it was actually occurring. So what do they know that makes them so certain that the final days isn't happening yet?
Yeah, that raises so many questions to the point where Kryl says, I'm heading off to Charlian to do some digging, and I will basically send you guys a note when you guys can come over to help me figure this shit out.
To which, it's a good thing that that's the division of plan, because the Telophoroi are on the move, attacking on all sides with lunar primals.
Specifically, they are targeting Cartano, because there is a massive ether deposit
stored right over it, which is Louis Sua's corpse, if you remember everything we went through the Quas of Bahamut.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the events of the Calamity basically restructured the way the ether flows in Eorzea, and there's a big epicenter in Cartano.
Which would make it perfect no, that's later. But basically, yeah, it does merit wanting to go ahead and investigate why they're attacking the plains of Carthano, as well as just wanting to deal with the primal
menace,
the lunar primals themselves. So now we start a massive instance in which we take over,
we take over each of the Scion groups one by one to take care of things. Let me go ahead and pull up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just because I don't remember all of them, and it's actually a substantial amount of swap throughs you're doing through. We start
off with Alize and Graha fighting a bunch of the mechs.
Right. You fight as Alice, so you're doing a simplified red mage.
Yes, and then we go and fight Lunar Odin
as Urianger with Thancred and Y'shtola.
Yes, and so basically what's going on is that the Telophoroi has created this magic sigil and confluences that, when detonated, would cause a chain reaction.
Basically doing a massive nuke in Cartano and having enough ether to trigger the end of days.
Yes. So basically, Urianger is, while you're playing as him, you have to heal the confluence to make sure it does not go off, while Thancred and Y'shtola are fighting off Lunar Odin. Yeah, by the way, that was a thing.
Yes, that was a heck of a fight. Also, after you're done with that, you'll be doing Alice and Graha Tia again, this time as Graha, to fight Lunar Ravana.
To which you are also healing a confluence while dealing with Ravana.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. And then finally, you come back to the Warrior of Light, to fight a lunar Ifrit.
Yep.
Probably the same one that mutilated Arenvald.
Right. And so, we didn't mention that. So right before we go deal with the lunar primals, we actually get a visit from Arenvald, who has been permanently crippled as a result of his bout with lunar Ifrit.
Yes.
He is somewhat in the position of there is no known cure for his paralysis, but he still intends to help out as a scion. And while Alphino is distraught at believing that he at least was somewhat responsible for getting Arenvald in this situation, ultimately Arenvald's words remind him that he has done a lot and will continue to do a lot unless he decides to stop.
Yes. To which Fordola comes by and says, "You think you're done? You think you're done, son? Don't just sit there and do nothing. There is so much you can do despite not being on the front lines."
And which it kind of hints as a small friendship. I'm not going to say romance yet, because a lot of people would like that, but I don't think it's there yet.
No. Arenvald's basically saying, you're going to make damn sure my life is very interesting, aren't you, Fordola?
And she basically gives him a tsundere answer, but it's at least hinted that she's going to help out her countrymen.
Yes.
Legs or no legs.
But anyway, we take care of the issues at Cartano. Fanny Danny decides to fuck off, saying, "I've done enough here. You clearly have me outmatched. Woe is me."
Of course, he also reports back to Xenos, who says, "Well, it didn't go off as we didn't win, but it shouldn't make a difference anyway. So don't worry about that."
Yeah. To which Xenos, having now found his weapon of choice,
amongst a pile which he is basically stabbed into the floor of the
palace floor.
The palace. I'm trying to remember the palace foyer.
Yeah.
Basically, just rows and rows of weapons stabbed in the palace foyers before coming across one hidden by a pillar. To which he says, "So that's the one you've decided."
Yes.
And it hints at certain events that are relevant to Endwalker.
Yes.
But by the time we come back from Cartano, we get a message from good old Kryl, who says that our arrangements in Charlian have been made, and we can now cross over.
That is where it starts. Technically, Shadowbringers ends with the Battle of Cartano, the dust settling, and everyone looking up at the moon, as Xenos is ready to do what he wants to do. So, that was the end of the Shadowbringers MSQ. What do you think for the hookup for Endwalker?
There was one... Did we get the one hint from that one? Because I thought there was
at the end of the hint, at the end of the look up at the moon, we then see Xenos with his Reaper weapon.
I thought there was something else related to a certain white-haired woman.
Oh, yes, of course. At
Yes.
the end of everything. At the end of the credits, I'm sorry.
The Warrior of Light lingers on the moon as well, but also sees...
a woman in white.
Hear, think,
Feel. Yep.
And while we don't know the name of her, we've certainly heard that phrase before.
Yep, it's Hydaelyn. It is Hydaelyn.
Because remember, we have established that Zodiark is of Ascian creation, and so is Hydaelyn. We just haven't seen that form of her.
No. What we saw was basically the ancient version of her.
Right.
But yeah, that ends Shadowbringers and leads us into Endwalker.
So I think this is probably a really good ending into it. I think it very much establishes sort of we are going to finish Xenos off in the next expansion. But it leaves a lot of mystery about what we're going to find in Charlian, as well as where else we go into in that expansion. And it leaves a lot of thirst for what's going to happen next. I imagine after everyone was finished gnawing at the bit for fucking after Shadowbringers ended, they wanted to see where Endwalker was going.
Oh yeah, they did. And I was there for when all the news and stuff for Endwalker was coming out. And I was like, oh, what is this?
Right.
What is this expansion going to be? What is coming? And I was like fascinated. Should we talk about the trailer for Endwalker before we jump into it?
We can talk about it briefly. I don't remember it as much as I do the other ones, but I will say that it did show off a lot of the settings we were going to go to. It showed off some of the new changes that they made. Alphino has a new class and is sporting a new weapon. We see Xenos with his new weapon, as well as the new class that's represented as a result of that.
I will mention that the song Footfalls actually uses motifs from Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers.
Yeah, that much I was able to pick up on. We also see clippets of Y'shtola before what we would later find out to be the Forum of Sharlayan, as well as Grahatia searching some of their hidden libraries for knowledge, although what he exactly finds is not known.
Yes. But we'll get to that.
It's all very well done, and then it ends on this shot of the Warrior of Light standing on the fucking moon in full paladin garb, as this is the shot that we're ending on, as it's all coming to an end.
Yes. We walk towards the end.
And I'm curious to see how this comes out. I will say, just as a minor note, of the tank classes you've played, you have not touched Paladin in the slightest.
No, I have not touched Paladin. It is the one that I kind of am avoiding playing for lore reasons. Mm-hmm. Mainly because of the way Horshaphant defended the Warrior of Light with a shield. He does not want to hold a shield.
I can imagine that is somewhat traumatic. Although I would imagine the Emperor's new shield would help remedy that somewhat.
I know the Emperor's new shield would help with that, but I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if I had to pick a shield for my warrior...
You would use Horshaphant's. Yes. Just like Joe Cat.
Yeah. I would. I fucking would.
But yeah, no, it's a fantastic intro. I do think it's probably... I would say it's better... I don't know, because all of them are actually really good thinking about them. I think it does a better job of establishing the setting than Heaven's Ward, although Heaven's Ward does do a good chunk of that already. But it doesn't nearly show off all the diversities that are there. It mainly focuses on Ishgard.
Right.
Whereas with Stormblood, you do get the dual...
the Tale of Two expansion.
The Tale of Two expansions, yes. And of course... You can't beat fucking Shadowbringers.
No, that fucking cinematic is probably the best one they've done.
I would say Shadowbringers followed by Dawntrail.
Really?
I would say that. But that's like not... It's like a 0.5 difference between any of the trailers between each other, so it's not that wide.
But you're definitely eager to get into Endwalker, right?
Right. So do we want to go ahead and do the brief intro to Sharlayan, or do you want to go ahead and save that for the next podcast? Because we are at 2.5 hours right now, and we've already got it a good chunk in.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. I kind of want to. Sometimes I want to go into Endwalker right away, but I feel like we should save that for proper. But I will tell you right now, we have already gotten to the first dungeon, and we have gotten to Garlemald.
Yes.
We have done that much of Endwalker. We will refrain from talking about it until next episode.
Oh, yeah. I should mention, so what I have done in the past, at least post ARR, is I've chosen one class to be the one that I clear the expansion through. And so for ARR, it was actually Monk. Although I started off as Paladin, I ended up clearing it as Monk. Using that, and that became the starting arc that was used in our podcast when we started doing this. With Heaven's Ward, obviously, it was Dark Knight.
Of course.
With Stormblood, it was Red Mage.
Right.
And with Endwalker,
it was Astrologian.
It ended up being Astrologian. And so I have done each of the 4 subsects, with the only one being ranged. And so naturally, I'm going into Endwalker's Machinist.
Which is actually pretty nice, if you ask me.
It's very good, especially because by this point, I have gotten the Queen Overdrive.
Yeah.
So now I have the giant battle mech to go ahead and lay the smackdown on my enemies for me. I also have the giant air hook, which is very nice. I definitely needed that. I thought that was a major upgrade over the heat shot.
Range DP... AoE skills still suck.
Somewhat, but at least you have some option, and the I think it's the Blunderbuss it really has a kick on the animation to it. So, at the very least, it has that. You have tried to sell me on Dancer at one point. I just am not a fan of being... I am not a fan of being hard support. Which, if I'm going to be hard support, I might as well be fucking healer.
I mean, fair enough, fair enough.
So, you have tempted me with that, and at least one part of me wanted to do Bard initially, and then I decided against it.
Apparently, Bard has, like, the gayest characters possible.
Really?
Yeah.
I've also heard that, like, as of the last Dawntrail patch, that it got buffed in terms of its effectiveness.
Bard?
Bard, yes.
Bard got better, yes. Bard got better. Machinist has kind of been suffering.
Well, Machinist got pigeonholed in the same way Dark Knight got pigeonholed because of their preference of DPS over what the main role is.
Yes, and the problem is it's not even doing good enough DPS.
That's the problem. And so that's at least part of the reason why I may not do that. I'm actually, if I'm going to be grinding up a new class, I'm actually looking into Sage.
Really?
Yes, and that's solely because of the fact I've seen glamours in which people dress themselves up as Phoenix Wright characters because apparently either Battle Stance or Victory Pose has a finger point that makes you look like a Phoenix Wright character.
You are going to dress up as Edgeworth, aren't you?
I will certainly try. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be closer to Manfred Von Karm. Actually, I will be... If there's any suits out there that are going to give me closer to Edgeworth, it's going to be the young Edgeworth, in which he has that massive fucking collar that he wears in his first court case against Mia Fey.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah. But I imagine... That's what I would at least imagine. I'm sure there's other glams that work out better. Maybe I'll try to look up something for Apollo Justice. Maybe it'll be Phoenix Wright in his Spirit of Justice appearance. But I haven't done too much digging into it yet. I kind of am actually thinking about maybe even going back and doing leveling up Gunbreaker, just to see where that goes.
Gunbreaker is fun. I will say I have not touched it much since they reworked it mid-patch. This is another one that they did.
Mid-patch.
They did a mid-patch change to Gunbreaker where it messed up my rotation so much that I'm wondering, what the hell do I do?
So I think maybe we need to both look at that Gunbreaker video if it's out already. If not, we'll have to wait for that.
I think the Gunbreaker video for Wes Galber is not out yet, so I'll have to wait on that.
Yeah.
I would. Thankfully, he has the... I'm amazed at how simple Black Mage is in general.
I know it got definitely more simplified, and I think that's at least part of the hate for it. There is one more topic I do want to talk about, although I'm not sure if either of us will be indulging in it.
Okay.
Final Fantasy Mobile.
Oh, the mobile version of it?
Yes, that apparently is going to be at least either entering beta test or being released soon.
I think it's being released in China at the moment, and from what I've heard, some outfits have 16 dye channels.
Yep.
That pisses me off.
Yeah, he really goes for the customization on that one.
Yeah, but then again, it's only base ARR so far.
Yeah, and it's not entirely clear the leveling on it, but it is going to be at least simplified so that way you can do it on your phone.
I don't know how I feel about that, to be perfectly honest, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think I'm ever going to touch it, to be perfectly honest.
I mean...
Mainly because it'll be on a separate server, so I can't use my own Warrior of Light. I'd have to make a whole new thing and go through it all again.
I almost feel like that's kind of the point, but I also feel like given all the advancements that they would have made by this point, they might even rework some of the stuff to be later brought into the main game. So I feel like that... like because we were saying they were going back to ARR and not just doing visual updates, but also doing dungeon reworks.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would also coincide with the mobile releases to have them be almost parallel.
That is possible. We'll have to see what happens, but again, I'm not entirely sure what to do.
But I think that's more or less where we're at.
Next time, we are going to walk to the end.
Yeah, we'll go through Endwalker, and we will see where this road leads us. But before that, hopefully you will have the even... How is it now phrased? The even more dangerous adventures of Mandeville?
Inexplicably further Hildebrand adventures.
Yep. So hopefully that will come out before... that will come out before our Endwalker podcast.
That will come out within a day or so. Trust me, it's only going to be one episode.
I know, but I mean, like, in terms of when we're releasing this video to where the next podcast will come out.
This podcast will probably come out around the same time or after I record the Hildebrand episode. I don't know. I will probably post this first, and then the next day I will post Hildebrand.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, that's it for now. This is Leo Force.
This has been Ray.
And we will go ahead and see you when we walk to the edge.
Later all, and have a good day.